Chapter 438. Jiang Ziqi's words had started the conversation, and the others also followed suit. Evidently, not only was the Tao Lord amazing in Taoist techniques, but he was also the best in beast taming at that time. This was acknowledged by everyone, and they all gave him real examples. For example, there was the story of the Tao Lord riding a dragon into the Eastern Sea. There was also the story of the Tao Lord killing the insect demons that were wreaking havoc in various lands, dispelling the sea of locusts. At this, Lin Jin couldn't help but recall what happened at Mount Gukong. The Tao Lord had imparted the 6 beast Taoist, and the insect Tao was one of them. In this way, although it seemed like a rumor, it was actually very credible. Everyone chimed in, sharing all the news and legends they knew about the Tao Lord. In no time at all, the visitation hall was bustling with activity. Of course, they were also curious as to why the curator would suddenly be interested in that peerless Tao Lord from centuries ago. However, they didn't ask, and the curator didn't say, so they decided not to ask. They had long since come to a consensus on this. Just then, Feng Ziqian, the prince of Heavenly Spiral Kingdom, spoke up, immediately attracting Lin Jin's attention. Curator, there seems to be a Tao Lord's heavenly book in the royal treasury of our heavenly Jade Nation. Legend has it that it was personally written by the Tao Lord, but ordinary people can't understand a heavenly book. I once read a few pages by chance when I was young, but I couldn't understand anything. After Feng Ziqian said that, Lin Jin immediately came over. Tao Lord's heavenly scroll? Can I have a look at this? Lin Jin made his request. Feng Ziqian's face was filled with helplessness when he heard this. Well, curator, it's not that I'm stingy, but the truth is that the Tao Lord's heavenly book is in the treasury. Even I can't enter that place unless I get the permission of my father and 3 grandpas, but they definitely won't agree to it. Feng Ziqian told him the truth. To put it simply, it was difficult. After all, that was the heavenly Jade Kingdom. Not everyone could enter the royal treasury. Not even the emperor of the heavenly Jade Kingdom could, let alone a prince like Feng Ziqian. There were 3 royal elders in the spirited Sky Nation. The emperor was in charge of state affairs, but when it came to the internal affairs of the royal family and the treasury, the 3 royal elders had the final say. At this, Lin Jin sighed. He was very disappointed. Based on his intuition, the Tao Lord's heavenly book was definitely extraordinary. It might even contain the clues he needed. However, it was impossible for him to obtain it with Feng Ziqian's help. By the way, I have an extraordinary memory since I was young. I have a photographic memory. I can still vaguely remember the contents of the few pages of the heavenly book that I accidentally saw. It's mainly because the words of the heavenly book are very beautiful, so sometimes I secretly write them for fun. If the curator doesn't mind, I'll try to write a little. Of course, there will be some discrepancies, but it should be about the same. After Feng Ziqian said that, Lin Jin immediately let him try. Soon, a page that no one else could understand was passed from Feng Ziqian's hands to the curator. Are those words? I don't recognize it, and I've never seen it before. I've traveled around various countries before, but I've never seen this kind of writing. Yi Yuzhou was considered knowledgeable, but when he saw the writing, he shook his head repeatedly. Perhaps those aren't words at all, but simple scribbles? Old Tian tossed out an extremely simple theory, which suited his personality. As the group discussed, they were unaware of the spectacular change in Lin Jin's expression when he saw the text on this page. Fortunately, he was wearing a mask. Now, Lin Jin was trying his best to stop his fingers from trembling. Feng Ziqian was right. There were some discrepancies in his copy, but it was only roughly similar to the contents of the Tao Lord's heavenly book. Of course, to them, it was impossible to verify whether it was similar or not. But to Lin Jin, Feng Ziqian's copy was only slightly meaningful, and that was because Lin Jin could recognize these words. In the world before Lin Jin transmigrated, he had used this language. He was all too familiar with it. From primary school to university, this language had been ingrained in his brain. Later on, when Lin Jin mysteriously arrived in this world, he inherited the original owner's memories, so he was able to learn this world's language without a teacher. But that didn't mean that Lin Jin had forgotten his mother world's language. This was the reason why he was so shocked. Anyone in his position wouldn't be able to keep their composure when they saw their mother world's language that shouldn't even exist here. Feng Ziqian's handwriting was ugly, and the content was obviously messed up. The sentences didn't make sense, but it wasn't a problem to decipher it. In any case, Lin Jin's mind was in turmoil. It was no wonder the Daelord's heavenly scroll was called a heavenly scroll. No one could understand it. This language came from another world, so it would be a miracle if they could understand it. But Lin Jin could. I've been here for 180 years. I miss Dog Egg so much. He must be starving to death, right? I want to go home. There weren't many words that Lin Jin could decipher, but to Lin Jin, every single one of them was like a family he hadn't seen for a long time. They looked so familiar and familiar. Suppressing his excitement, Lin Jin took a few deep breaths to calm himself down. He turned to Feng Ziqian and asked, "That's all? Try to recall and see if you can write more." Lin Jin was too excited that he forgot about something. Feng Ziqian was stunned. Not only him, but Zhao Jingyan, Black Crow, Madame Ghostchild, and Yi Yuzhou were also dumbstruck. Lin Jin finally realized what was going on. Didn't this mean that he could understand these words? But it didn't matter. So what if they knew? Lin Jin wouldn't tell them the real reason anyway. Let them guess as much as they wanted. Now, the most important thing was to get Feng Ziqian to write more. Lin Jin really wanted to know the contents of the Daelord's heavenly scroll. Feng Ziqian shook his head. It's been more than 10 years. It's already impressive that you can remember this. Curator, do you recognize these words? At his question, the others turned to look at him. Lin Jin smiled but didn't answer. He was the curator. If he wanted to answer a question, he could. If he didn't want to, no one could do anything to him. Just like now. After Lin Jin finished smiling, he said nothing. Although the others were curious, they didn't ask any more questions. They were all obedient and well-behaved. Lin Jin was happy and gratified. Although Feng Ziqian couldn't recall more of the Daelord's heavenly scroll, it didn't matter anymore. Even if he remembered, he had only read 2 pages. The rest of the heavenly scroll's contents were still unknown. Hence, Lin Jin had to figure out how to get his hands on this Daelord's heavenly scroll. If I want to borrow the Daelord's heavenly scroll, how should I handle this? Lin Jin asked whatever was on his mind. At this, Feng Ziqian immediately looked troubled. Chapter 439. Curator, this is really difficult. Right now, my brothers are eyeing the throne covetously, and no one is listening to me. Also, if I really talk to Father about this, Father will definitely not agree. After all, opening the treasury is no small matter. Feng Ziqian began to complain. Lin Jin ignored him and continued staring at Feng Ziqian. Noticing his attitude, the latter knew that Curator was determined to do this, so he said, "Then, let me think about it. Let me think about it." Feng Ziqian paced left and right as he pondered over this problem. It could be seen that this matter was indeed difficult to handle. Feng Ziqian was also very serious about it. After a moment, he raised his head and tentatively said, "Curator, I don't have much confidence in this matter if I tell him directly. Why don't you come to our Sky Xian Nation when you have time? You can talk to him about this matter." Everyone was stunned. They mused, how dare this Feng Ziqian scheme against Curator? We all know you're fighting for the throne. Who knows if you're using Curator's influence to boost your own reputation by asking Curator to go to Spiral Nation. Being a smart man, Feng Ziqian quickly added, "Curator, I'm not being selfish." Feng Ziqian was a smart man. He quickly said, "Curator, I'm not being selfish. Let's be frank. I do hope that Curator can help me. After all, Curator is very capable and has many tricks up his sleeves. But at the same time, I want to see the Tao Lord's heavenly tome. Even if Father agrees, he can't let me take the heavenly tome away. At the end of the day, you have to come here and read the heavenly tome in Merak." Lin Jin thought about it. This Taoist Lord's heavenly tome meant a lot to him. Based on the clues he had so far, that Taoist might be a transmigrator just like him. Although this sounded ridiculous, it might just be the truth. After all, Lin Jin was a transmigrator. If he could transmigrate, why couldn't others? However, This was only a speculation. To confirm it, more evidence was needed. Taoist Lord's heavenly tome was the most direct evidence. Just for this, Lin Jin was willing to pay a visit to Spiral Nation. However, Spiral Nation was a long journey. Lin Jin suddenly remembered that his own Beast Appraiser rating could only be promoted at the Beast Appraisal Association's headquarters in a premium country. After all, in the Jade Dragon Kingdom, a rank 3 Beast Appraiser was the highest rank one could achieve. In other words, there were many reasons for him to go to Spiral Nation. Lin Jin could even come up with a few such reasons. For example, he wanted to meet a higher-ranked Beast Appraiser, or he wanted to help Appraiser Tan Sun deliver some specialties from his hometown to Tan Lin. At this, Lin Jin made up his mind. He had to make this trip to the Spiral Great Nation. Not only as curator, but Lin Jin had to go as well, so that no one would suspect anything. After all, who knew how long he would be gone for? It might even take a month or two. Once Maple City was settled, his position as chief would probably come to an end. In addition, Lin Jin had promised Jade Dragon Emperor He Qian that he would let him meet Curator once. It would be best if this matter was settled so that he could head to Merak with ease. Thinking about it this way, there were still a lot of things to do. After leaving the visitation hall, Lin Jin began his preparations. Coincidentally, the next day, Lin Jin received a letter from Jade Dragon City's headquarters. It's from Appraiser Tan Sun. Lin Jin opened the letter and mused. What a coincidence. Back at the royal capital, Tan Sun and Chu Qing'e were already impressed by Lin Jin. They were even sure that Lin Jin's beast appraising skills were good enough for him to get promoted to rank 4. However, Jade Dragon Kingdom's headquarters wasn't qualified. Hence, they promised Lin Jin that they would find a way to inform the headquarters of a premium country and see if they could get Lin Jin a recommendation through their connections. And it worked. Appraiser Tan Sun wrote in the letter that Spiral Nation's headquarters had agreed to conduct an inspection, but Lin Jin was required to go to Spiral City. As for how he would conduct the inspection, it would be decided when he arrived. This coincided with Lin Jin's plan. In the letter, Tan Sun was probably worried that Lin Jin wouldn't want to go, so he wrote a lot of persuasive words. Of course, he was aware of Lin Jin's current position. If he had the chance to become a rank 4 beast appraiser, he would be much better than a mere chief of Maple City's branch. Reading between the lines, Lin Jin could tell that Tan Sun was genuinely concerned about Lin Jin. Lin Jin's heart warmed. Lin Jin wrote a reply. One was to inform Appraiser Tan Sun that he would heed his advice and prepare to head to Spiral Nation. Other than that, he needed headquarters to send a replacement to take over his position as chief of Maple City's association. This might take a few days. Also, Lin Jin had to make arrangements for his family and pet beasts. He would be gone for at least a month or two, so Lin Jin didn't plan to bring anyone along. Also, Zhao Ying and Lu Xiaoyan had to settle down as well. For the next few days, Lin Jin would write some teaching materials so that they could continue learning beast appraising after he left. Speaking of which, their appraisal skills were pretty good. To Lin Jin, be it Zhao Ying, Lu Xiaoyan, Han Dong, or Jia Qian, all of them were the level of a rank 1 beast appraiser. Some of them might even be better. In other words, all 4 of them could definitely pass the next beast appraiser's examination. This was something Lin Jin was glad about. In the morning, Yi Yuzhou dropped by to deliver the Taoist Lord's biography. Lin Jin thanked him and chatted with Yi Yuzhou for a while before the man left. After that, Lin Jin went to the Beast Appraisal Association and flipped through the Taoist Lord's biography, reading it carefully. This biography was obviously a compilation of various legends. Although some of them were definitely fabricated and didn't seem real, Lin Jin could still glean some of the Taoist Lord's past achievements. The more he read, the more Lin Jin realized that this Taoist Lord might be on the same side as him. He was a transmigrator and might have once owned the Museum of Deadly Beasts. Lin Jin came up with this speculation because he recalled the Qiao family's heirloom in Reed City. Wasn't it the visitor's token number 3 in the visitation hall? If this existed in the outside world, didn't that mean that before he obtained the Museum of Deadly Beasts and activated the visitation hall, This visitation hall had already been opened by someone else? Otherwise, why would the visitor's token be left outside? Of course, there were still many questions. For example, why was number 3 the one left outside? Why did number 4, 5, or 6 remain outside? Why did they have a new owner? In other words, He Ching and the others. Also, were the visitors' tokens number 1 and 2 left outside like number 3? If that was the case, then where were the wooden tokens number 1 and number 2 now? Was it the Tao Lord who opened the visitation hall the last time? These were all mysteries that needed to be solved. Right, there was also the Demonic Appraisal Association. If the Demonic Appraisal Association would go to such lengths to steal the Chow family's visitors' token number 3, did they already know about this token secret? Now that they had taken the Chow family's token number 3, where was it now? Before he knew it, Lin Jin's thoughts were running wild. Before he knew it, it was already afternoon. Just then, Zhao Ying came over obediently and said, "Master Lin, there's a lady who calls herself Zhao Jingyan. She says she's your friend." Chapter 440. Zhao Jingyan. Lin Jin was stunned. He mused, "Why is she here? Didn't we just meet in the visitation hall? It's only been 2 days, so why would she be here in Maple City? If she's here, why didn't she tell me?" Whatever the case, Lin Jin decided to take a look first. After asking someone to invite her in, Lin Jin confirmed that it was indeed Zhao Jingyan. However, Lin Jin was Lin Jin now, not curator, so he probably hadn't met Zhao Jingyan before. Hence, Lin Jin put on an act and said, "I'm the chief of Maple City's Beast Appraiser Association, Lin Jin. Is there something I can help you with?" While Lin Jin was pretentiously studying her, Zhao Jingyan was doing the same thing. The impression he gave her was that he was elegant and composed, as expected of curator's disciple. Of course, Zhao Jingyan was the great commander of Phoenix Palace, an existence second only to a premium country. Zhao Jingyan was naturally arrogant. She couldn't afford to be arrogant in front of curator, but if Lin Jin was only his disciple, she felt that they could at least be on equal footing. Or perhaps, she should be more polite. This was Zhao Jingyan's own opinion. She was being polite in front of Lin Jin. "Appraiser Lin, I'm from Phoenix Palace. Jingyan is an acquaintance of your master. I've come uninvited because I was forced by circumstances to meet your master and answer his questions. Also, I'm here on my master's instructions to search for an abnormal flame." Zhao Jingyan answered with a smile. What he said was reasonable, but Lin Jin could hear a big problem in it. It was understandable that Zhao Jingyan came to him because she couldn't find curator. But why would she come here to search for an abnormal flame? Where in Maple City, or even the entire Jade Dragon Kingdom, could she find one? Lin Jin didn't ask directly. Instead, he had Zhao Ying and the others brew tea for the guests. Zhao Ying and the others were sensible enough to know that there were visitors, so they went out to tend to their duties after they finished brewing the tea. Now, Lin Jin's Beast Appraisal Hall was managed by Zhao Ying, Lu Xiaoyan, Jia Qian, and Han Donglai. Usually, they would only ask Lin Jin for help when they encountered some incurable illnesses or rare beasts. But recently, they were able to handle any incurable illnesses or rare beasts. Hence, Lin Jin said that the 4 of them had reached the standard of a rank 1 beast appraiser, and they were even stronger. Inside the house, Zhao Jingyan recounted what happened in the visitation hall. Although Lin Jin already knew about it, he still had to listen to it from the beginning to the end. "Your master, curator, is a rare talent in this world. Jingyan admires him immensely. That Phoenix's nirvana and rebirth through fire was of no use to me either. Other than visiting Appraiser Lin to see if there's a chance for me to meet curator. I'm also here because I know of an unusual fire vein beneath Maple City." Zhao Jingyan didn't try to hide anything. Since she knew Lin Jin was curator's disciple, there was no reason for her to hide anything. Lin Jin was now sure that Zhao Jingyan wasn't here for an excuse. She was here for the anomaly flame so that the phoenix could undergo nirvana. However, Lin Jin had no idea that there was an anomaly fire vein beneath Maple City. But soon, Lin Jin recalled that there was indeed an earth vein spirit fire in the Beast Appraisal Association. But while this earth vein was rare, it couldn't be considered an unusual flame. If there was an anomalous fire vein beneath Maple City, it would have been heavily guarded instead of being so relaxed. After all, an anomalous fire vein was no small matter. Upon hearing this, Zhao Jingyan merely smiled. Appraiser Lin, you might not know this, but I'm afraid no one in the Jade Dragon Kingdom is aware of the existence of an anomalous fire vein beneath Maple City. Only our Phoenix Palace knows about this. After all, Phoenix Palace reigns supreme over fire. Our ancestors have long scouted out every province, and if there's an anomaly, they would mark it down and use a secret technique to seal off the fire vein to prevent others from finding out. At this, Lin Jin was enlightened. Phoenix Palace was capable of doing something like this. Moreover, Phoenix Palace was an organization with several hundred years of history. In the past centuries, they had produced experts as well. If an expert from Phoenix Palace had found out about the anomaly fire vein beneath Maple City before the Jade Dragon Kingdom was founded and used a secret technique to seal off its aura, the outcome would be exactly as Zhao Jingyan described. This was akin to having a treasure in one's house that was locked away by someone else. As the owner of the house, how vexing would that be? In any case, Lin Jin was feeling vexed. If he had known that there was an anomaly fire vein beneath Maple City, Xiaohua might have been able to use the flame to complete his next perfect evolution. It seemed like Phoenix Palace had done something detestable. But thinking about it from another perspective, if the Phoenix Palace did not seal up this place, then in these several hundred years, there would likely be other masters who would discover this place. At that time, there would be a storm of blood, and it was even possible that this heavenly fire vein would dry up. In other words, Phoenix Palace had done a good deed. At the very least, they managed to preserve this anomaly fire vein to this day. It was one thing if he didn't know about it before, but now that he did, Lin Jin couldn't just sit back and do nothing. Lin Jin recalled that the entrance to the anomaly fire vein was inside the Beast Appraisers Association. He had once obtained a fire to refine a beast down there, but Lin Jin didn't know about it back then. He recalled that pelletization was also down there. Lin Jin couldn't keep his cool anymore. He and Zhao Jingyan agreed to go down there and take a look. Zhao Jingyan was more than happy to oblige. She was here to borrow the anomaly fire vein for her phoenix's nirvana. However, she was still a little hesitant. Don't we have to wait for Curator? What if something goes wrong? At least we'll have some insurance. Zhao Jingyan clearly trusted Curator more. But Lin Jin couldn't wait. Curator won't be coming anytime soon. Also, I've received his teachings, so it's the same for me. Lin Jin got up and had Zhao Jingyan follow him. The Beast Appraisal Association's Earth Fire Spirit Vein was usually used by beast appraisers to treat their pet beasts' injuries and improve their strength. The one guarding this place was Elder Mo of the association. Elder Mo was a veteran who once helped Lin Jin. Hence, even though Lin Jin was now the chief of the Beast Appraisal Association, Lin Jin was still polite to Elder Mo. Lin Jin entered the cave and saluted Elder Mo, who was meditating. Upon seeing Lin Jin, the latter laughed heartily. Chief Lin, it's been a long time since you've been here. I've heard about your exploits in the royal capital. If you have the time, you must tell me about the art of beast appraising. Elder Mo wasn't one to put on airs just because of his seniority. This was what Lin Jin admired the most about him. Elder Mo, I didn't come here without a reason. Lin Jin knew that Elder Mo's duty was to guard this Earth Fire Spirit Vein. Lin Jin was ashamed that he had never asked why Elder Mo had to guard this place. As chief, he had failed in his duty. When asked about this, Elder Mo glanced at Zhao Jingyan, who came in with Lin Jin. Elder Mo's duty here was clearly a secret of the association that couldn't be revealed in front of outsiders. Chapter 441. Lin Jin had no intention of hiding Zhao Jingyan's identity, so he told Elder Mo the truth. Phoenix Palace's chief commander? Elder Mo had obviously heard of the Phoenix Palace before. After all, the Grassy Continent's Daluo Temple and the Southern States' Phoenix Palace were existences that had existed for hundreds of years, or even years. Although they were not countries, their status was on par with the upper class. How could Elder Mo not have heard of them? However, what surprised Elder Mo was that the commander of the Phoenix Palace was actually a little girl. Although Zhao Jingyan was several years older than Lin Jin, to Elder Mo, she was just a little girl. However, Elder Mo didn't doubt Lin Jin's identity. He trusted Lin Jin, and since the chief had said it was fine, Elder Mo had nothing to worry about. More than 100 years ago, an expert from the Jade Dragon Kingdom once sealed a monster here. Back then, that expert was an elder of the Beast Appraisal Association. Back then, he built the Maple City Beast Appraisal Association branch right above the entrance of the Earth Fire Spirit Vein. Every 30 years, an elder of the association would take over this place to prevent the monster from breaking the seal and wreaking havoc in the world. Elder Mo's story was quite simple. More than 100 years ago, there was an expert who used the power of the Earth Fire Spirit Vein to seal a powerful demonic beast underneath. For the past 100 years, there had been an elder guarding this place. Every 30 years, there would be a rotation of elders. Elder Mo was already the 4th Beast Appraiser Elder to be stationed here. Thank you for your hard work. Elder Mo, Lin Jin couldn't help but feel a deep sense of respect. Before this, he had no idea why Elder Mo wanted to stay down here all this time. Now he knew why. He also knew that Elder Mo had been here for more than 20 years, and there were only a few years left until his 30-year rotation. He had spent most of his time in this place for more than 20 years. Of course, it was admirable. It's my duty to do so. Elder Mo seemed nonchalant. He was clearly willing to dedicate his most precious years here. What's the matter with President Lin and Commander Zhao? Elder Mo was curious. He knew that Lin Jin was a capable man, especially when it came to beast appraising. His skills were unparalleled in Jade Dragon Kingdom. Even His Majesty named him Jade Dragon's #1 beast appraiser. Just based on this fact alone, Lin Jin was already the leader of Jade Dragon Kingdom's beast appraisers. But Zhao Jingyan was different. He didn't doubt Zhao Jingyan's identity, but the name of the Phoenix Palace was far too resounding. When Elder Mo was still young and studying, the Phoenix Palace's reputation was already illustrious. It was said that it was the holy land of all fire attribute beasts. In particular, their flame techniques were the best in the world. The great commander of the Phoenix Palace was equivalent to a top figure. Why would such a figure come to a small place like Maple City for no reason? Could it be because of this Earth Fire Spirit Vein? Although the Earth Fire Spirit Vein was precious, it wasn't rare enough for the Phoenix Palace's great commander to make a special trip here. Thus, Elder Mo was very curious and wanted to understand the situation. Zhao Jingyan said nothing. She could be respectful to the curator and trust Lin Jin, but she couldn't do the same to anyone else. Lin Jin, on the other hand, had her take out the phoenix egg. This is the ashes of a dead phoenix, condensed from flames, allowing it to be reborn from the ashes. Of course, not just any flame will work. It must be a rare flame. Coincidentally, the Earth Fire Spirit Vein beneath our association is a land of unusual flames. Lin Jin told Elder Mo about the Phoenix Palace's exploration of this place hundreds of years ago and how they sealed the unusual flame. Elder Mo was dumbfounded. Even after living for so long, he was still astounded to hear this. Unusual flame? It's right beneath here? Elder Mo's expression changed several times. If the Earth Fire Spirit Vein was considered a precious item, then the unusual flame was the rarest and most top-notch of all flames. Decades ago, there was a protracted war between premium countries. It was said that it was all because of a land of unusual flames. The value of that place was too great. It could be said to be a priceless treasure. At the very least, with the help of the unusual flame's energy, pet beasts of the fire attribute could achieve the effect of bone marrow cleansing. Their chances of evolution in the future would increase exponentially. That wasn't all. Unusual flames could also be used to refine pills and forge weapons. Their effects were many times better than regular flames. Lin Jin said, "Only the 3 of us know about this, so please keep it a secret, Elder Mo. After all, The value of an unusual flame is too great. If news of this were to leak out, it might attract the attention of spies or factions. When that happens, Maple City, or even the entire Jade Dragon Kingdom, might not have a day of peace. Lin Jean wasn't speaking blindly, and Elder Mo understood the pros and cons of this, so he nodded solemnly. Chief Lin, don't worry. Once this reaches my ears, I won't say a word. This is a serious matter, and I understand the pros and cons. Elder Mo was clearly more excited than before. After all, he now knew that he wasn't just guarding an earth fire spirit vein, but an unusual flames land. With this, all his efforts over the years were worth it. As for what kind of monster was sealed here, Elder Mo wasn't too sure. What he needed to do now was to reinforce the seal when it loosened. There was a stone door where Elder Mo was sitting. His pet beast, the fire lizard, had been lying there all this while. In fact, under the fire lizard's abdomen, there was a passage leading downwards. Following the passage, one could reach an octagonal pavilion. This was where the seal was located. Elder Mo led Lin Jean and Zhao Jingyan down. Outside the octagonal pavilion was the raging earth fire spirit vein. As far as the eye could see, there was nothing but scorching lava. The fire's spiritual energy here was extremely dense. If anyone else were to come here, they would surely feel dizzy from the heat. However, Lin Jean and the others all had pet beasts with fire attributes. Due to their blood contracts, they felt an indescribable sense of comfort when they came here. In the middle of the lava was a huge black rock that stood out from the rest. There was a fire amulet on the rock. Every 3 years, this fire amulet has to be reinforced with fire spells. A few days ago, I reinforced it for the 8th time. Elder Mo pointed at the black rock and said, "That's the monster." With his rich experience, Lin Jean knew that this rock was formed after the lava cooled. In other words, the real monster was inside this rock. Thunderfire Needle. With a flick of his finger, the Thunderfire Needle refined from divine lightning bolts shot out. Elder Mo knew how capable Lin Jean was. Had it been anyone else, he would have stopped him, but Lin Jean was someone he trusted. Like an armor-piercing arrow, the Thunderfire Needle pierced through the rock's outer shell and into its interior. In an instant, the Museum of Deadly Beasts reacted. A rank 5 demon. Lin Jean frowned. He didn't expect the senior from Jade Dragon Beast Appraisal Association to be able to seal a rank 5 demon down here. Chapter 442. There was a difference between monsters and demons. The former had no obsession, while the latter became demons because of their obsession. Monsters that became demons were obviously more difficult to deal with. To put it simply, it was the difference between a mentally normal person and a mentally deranged person. Demons could be seen as some sort of mental illness. Of course, it would be too one-sided to use such a description, but it was easy to understand. For example, within this rock surrounded by magma, there was a monster with an abnormal brain. This was very easy to understand. After retrieving the Thunderfire Needle, Lin Jean glanced at Zhao Jingyan. The latter understood what he meant, so she said, "The seal our Phoenix Palace's predecessors set is below. If we want to break open the abnormal flame, we have to clear everything above." Her meaning was clear. Above the abnormal flame seal was the sealed demon. To break open the abnormal flame, they had to get the demon out. There was no other way. But I suggest that we wait. It's best if we make sufficient preparations first, Zhao Jingyan suddenly said. Her words had another meaning. For her phoenix to undergo nirvana and be reborn from the ashes, she would need an abnormal flame to temper her body. Hence, she should be the most anxious person right now. But her suggestion to wait meant that she didn't trust Lin Jean and wanted to wait for the curator to arrive first. Lin Jean could obviously tell what she was thinking. If an expert like the curator really existed in this world, waiting wouldn't be a big deal. But Lin Jean knew that the curator, Zhao Jingyan, wanted to wait for was unnecessary. There's no need to wait. Let's start now. Lin Jean didn't want to waste any more time. His time was precious now. Once he was done here, he had to make a trip to the royal capital to meet He Qian as the curator. Only then could he go to Merak with peace of mind. This was something that had been decided long ago. If Zhao Jingyan hadn't come, Lin Jin would have left later today. Zhao Jingyan's arrival was an accident. Since it was an extra task, it was better to resolve it as soon as possible. Chief Lin, you have to think this through. The thing below has been sealed for more than 100 years. If you're not confident, you can wait a little longer. Elder Mo was hesitant. After all, the Beast Appraisal Association and the entire Maple City were above. If anything went wrong, the entire Maple City would be in for a huge disaster. Elder Mo was really worried. Lin Jin smiled. Elder Mo, have you forgotten that I'm a member of the nation's guardian as well? Protecting the country is my responsibility as well. I wouldn't do this if I wasn't confident. Lin Jin was confident. Through the Thunderfire Needle, Lin Jin learned about the demon's condition. Moreover, the Thunderfire Needle was no ordinary needle. That earlier strike had injected a bolt of thunder fire into the monster's body. Once the seal was released, Lin Jin would be able to deal with a rank 5 monster, even if it was one. In any case, Lin Jin was confident. Seal. At Lin Jin's command, Elder Mo no longer hesitated. After all, Lin Jin was the chief of Maple City's Beast Appraisal Association, so he had the authority to make such a decision. Moreover, Lin Jin's current status and influence were enough for him to make a decision of this level. At this moment, Elder Mo made a hand seal and chanted an incantation. A fire talisman on the stone below began to slowly dim, and then suddenly extinguished. The seal was undone. Then, the surroundings began to shake and rumble. The black stone below began to shake and crack, and as the cracks widened, a cold aura seeped out. Zhao Jingyan and Elder Mo were both taken aback. To think that the demon seal below was of the frost attribute. However, on further thought, it made sense. It was precisely because it was of the frost attribute that it had to be sealed in a place like the earth-fire spirit vein, using the power of earth-fire together with the fire sealing talisman to suppress it. The senior who suppressed this demon back then must have been an expert as well. A jade dragon covered in ice crystals crawled out from below. Jade Ice Dragon. This was the demon sealed here, and it was a rank 5 one at that. Blue flames seemed to be dancing in the eyes of this ice dragon. After it emerged, the temperature of the earth-fire spirit vein seemed to have cooled down. Under the cold aura, one could even feel a chill down their spine. For a rank 5 monster to be able to suppress the earth-fire spirit vein to a certain extent, it was impressive indeed. Elder Mo paled. He had been guarding this place for more than 20 years, but this was his first time seeing a demon like this. The aura of a rank 5 monster rendered him immobile. Even his pet beast, the rank 3 fire lizard, was curled up on the ground, unable to move an inch. Zhao Jingyan's situation was much better. After all, she had seen the world. However, her pet beast, the phoenix, had yet to undergo nirvana, so she couldn't be of much use. Of course, Lin Jin wasn't counting on them. Right from the start, he had to do this himself. A rank 5 monster was indeed powerful. Usually, it would be difficult for Lin Jin to deal with it himself. But coincidentally, he had recently obtained a powerful artifact. It wasn't a magic weapon, but a magic weapon. Immortal Binding Rope. He got this from the insect cultivator. For the past few days, Lin Jin had been studying this artifact when he had nothing to do. Lin Jin was clearly still a long way from fully understanding this artifact, but it wasn't as if he hadn't made any progress. For example, although Lin Jin had yet to fully refine it, it wasn't a problem for him to activate it within a certain range. To activate an artifact like this, spirit energy was useless. Only mana could do the trick. Fortunately, Lin Jin had Xiao Hua's yin-yang dharma body to convert spirit energy into mana. Otherwise, this immortal binding rope wouldn't be of any use to Lin Jin. Moreover, with Lin Jin's current mana, he could only activate the immortal binding rope once a day. But once was enough. Once this thing was activated, no matter who it was, it could tie them up tightly. Lin Jin had been trapped by this immortal binding rope before, so the memory was still fresh in his mind. If Shanger hadn't been by his side back then, he might have failed miserably. Yu Binglong had crawled out of the crevice. His entire body was enveloped in a chilling aura. The underground cave was instantly engulfed in ice and fire. A dragon's roar resounded through the cave. The trio, including Lin Jin, felt dizzy from the dragon's roar. It wasn't just them. Everyone in the Beast Appraisal Association and even the entire Maple City heard the dragon's roar. What's going on? Did you guys hear that too? What's that sound? I don't know. There were also knowledgeable people like the Friar Association's mentors who could tell that it was a dragon's roar. Their expressions changed at once. A few mentors with profound cultivation, such as Yi Yuzhou, Huang Fuming, Mr. E, and Mr. North River immediately rushed to the Friar Association. They were afraid that something might happen. At the same time, Shang'er flew out of Lin Jin's manor like a phantom, with Little Five following behind her. During this period of time, Xiaowu's cultivation had also improved very quickly. In a secluded corner of Maple City, a four-clawed jade dragon with a body as black as jade poked its head out from its hiding place to listen. Chapter 443. This voice. Could it be? This jade dragon was none other than Senior Mo, who escaped from the royal capital's jade dragon lair. Senior Mo only knew how to shape-shift, but he didn't know transfiguration, so he couldn't take on a human form. Hence, his journey to Maple City to look for Lin Jin had been quite a difficult one. But in the end, he managed to arrive safely. However, upon arriving at Maple City, Senior Mo became hesitant. He was here to seek shelter from Lin Jin. Senior Mo was nearing the end of his lifespan. After living for hundreds of years, he didn't know much about spells and couldn't even achieve transfiguration. It could be considered a failure. However, Senior Mo's heart wasn't old. He still wanted to jump around. He knew that he didn't have much talent. His current path of groping his way through was no longer feasible. If he continued down this path, he would only end up dead. Hence, Senior Mo had shamelessly come here. But now that he was out of the Jade Dragon lair, he didn't dare to meet Lin Jin. He was afraid that Appraiser Lin would reject him. What would he do if he did? It was because of this thought that Senior Mo had been hiding in Maple City for several days. He only came out after hearing a dragon's roar. Moreover, Senior Mo was very familiar with the dragon's roar. Senior Mo dashed out of his hiding spot and headed straight for the Beast Appraisal Association. Lin Jin had no idea that the dragon's roar had triggered a commotion. He quickly calmed himself down. This rank 5 Jade Dragon was no joke, but no matter how strong it was, it couldn't escape from the immortal binding rope. Go! Lin Jin moved swiftly. He took out the immortal binding rope and tossed it into the air. At the same time, he invoked a spell. In an instant, the immortal binding rope glowed brightly and shot forward at breakneck speed. Sensing the threat, the Jade Dragon immediately took flight, trying to avoid it. But how could it possibly avoid it? That was a magical artifact. Magical artifacts could only be crafted by immortals. Although there were no longer any immortals, the magical artifact was still here. Even if Lin Jin didn't have enough mana to unleash 10% of the artifact's power, it was still a piece of cake for him to restrain the Ice Jade Dragon. In an instant, the immortal binding rope wrapped itself around the Jade Dragon's body and wrapped itself tightly around it. The Ice Jade Dragon began to struggle wildly, trying to break free. Lin Jin smiled. This thing couldn't break free at all. But speaking of which, he could only use the immortal binding rope to bind his opponent. He couldn't do what the insect Taoist did. After binding him, he could still suppress his opponent's power. According to what the white ape had said, it had been tied up in its giant ape form. After being tied up, its demonic aura had been suppressed, and it had turned into a mini monkey. For the insect cultivator to be able to do this, he must have spent a lot of time refining the immortal binding rope. After all, it had only been a short while since Lin Jin obtained this artifact. It was already impressive enough that he was able to use the binding technique. The Ice Jade Dragon was still struggling, but it wasn't very effective. According to Lin Jin's plan, trapping the Ice Jade Dragon was only the first step. The second step, which was also the most crucial step, was to use the Demon Slayer to sever the dragon's demonic nature. The demon-slaying hall in the Museum of Deadly Beasts had already collected 2 pieces of demon jades. One was from Du Li's obsession, and the other was from the Desolate Mountains tiger demon, Hu Yuzhen. After Lin Jin severed their demonic nature, he obtained the demon jades. It was the same with the Ice Jade Dragon. The reason it went berserk was because of its obsession and demonic nature. Once it was severed, the Ice Jade Dragon could at least regain its sentience. If it still wanted to attack him, Lin Jin wouldn't mind killing it. Under the Thunderfire Needle, even a rank 5 pet beast would die if it was struck. Lin Jin activated the illusory demon-slaying Hall's demon-slaying sword. This sword wasn't real. It was just a manifestation of sword intent. Lin Jin could use the divine sword scroll to cast it. Pointing his finger, Lin Jin channeled his sword intent and slashed across the air. Demon Slayer. An invisible sword intent swept out. To Zhao Jingyan and Elder Mo, there was nothing. Lin Jin was just waving his hand in the air. But to the Ice Jade Dragon that was trapped by the immortal binding rope, it saw an incredibly sharp sword slashing toward its head with an unstoppable momentum. It wanted to escape, but it couldn't. In an instant, the demon-slaying sword slashed down from its head to its feet. The demon-slaying sword brought out a ball of black energy from the Ice Jade Dragon's body. When the demonic energy left its body, it immediately let out a terrifying shriek. It sounded like the wailing of ghosts. Even Zhao Jingyan and Elder Mo could hear it. Lin Jin could tell that this demonic energy was rather domineering. He wondered why its obsession was so strong that it surpassed even Hu Yuzhen's and Du Li's demonic nature. Hu Yuzhen aside, Du Li was an immortal. Could this Ice Jade Dragon's demonic nature be stronger than that of an immortal? That was clearly impossible. Lin Jin soon understood why. It was because Du Li was an immortal that he could suppress his demonic nature even after becoming demonic. That was why he seemed like an ordinary person when they first met. This was because Du Li's realm was too high. Even after becoming demonic, he could still maintain a trace of clarity. However, this Ice Jade Dragon wasn't the same. That was why its demonic nature was so domineering. But no matter how domineering it was useless. After being swept by the Demon Slayer, Lin Jin had to expend a little more effort to absorb the demonic energy into the blade. Throughout this process, shadows flew around in the cave, and strange noises kept ringing out. Finally, after all the demonic energy was absorbed into the Demon Slayer, the abnormalities disappeared without a trace. Almost at the same time, the Ice Jade Dragon's energy seemed to have been sucked dry. It lay limp on the ground, unable to struggle anymore. Or perhaps, without the demonic energy's influence, it knew that throwing a tantrum wouldn't help. Lin Jin wasn't just making wild guesses. He could tell from the Ice Jade Dragon's gaze. Before, it was filled with madness, anger, and murderous intent. Now, it was calm and composed with a desire to communicate. Lin Jin could see so many things from its gaze. Suddenly, Lin Jin sensed something and turned to look at the entrance behind him. There was Shang'er and a four-clawed ink jade dragon. However, Shang'er was holding the four-clawed ink jade dragon by its neck like a giant lizard. Lin Jin stared at the ink jade dragon and found it familiar. The one Shang'er was holding was obviously Old Mo. Seizing an opportunity, it quickly said, "Appraiser Lin, it's me, Old Mo. I'm the one from the Jade Dragon Lair. Do you remember?" Before it could finish its sentence, Shang'er tightened her grip, and Old Mo couldn't speak anymore. It was being strangled. However, its words reminded Lin Jin of the time he helped Hiyu with the dragon selection ceremony in the royal capital. "Isn't this Old Mo? What are you doing here?" Lin Jin was surprised. Seeing that Old Mo couldn't speak, Lin Jin gestured for Shang'er to let it go. Shang'er obeyed Lin Jin's command without hesitation. Chapter 444. Jade Dragon Mo fell to the ground and coughed a few times, looking extremely vexed. Shang'er, on the other hand, whispered, "Master Lin, there are other people outside who were attracted by the dragon roar. I've asked Little Five to stop them." Shang'er was smart enough to know that Lin Jin must have something urgent to attend to down there. Hence, other than capturing Elder Mo who was about to sneak in, she had Little Five keep the intruders outside. Yi Yuzhou and the others knew Little Five, so they didn't dare to barge in. Lin Jin nodded, indicating that Shang'er had done a good job. It wasn't appropriate for everyone to know what was going on down there. Moreover, they hadn't solved the problem yet. Elder Mo, on the other hand, finally regained his senses. When he saw the ice jade dragon bound by the immortal binding rope, he gasped in shock. "Mother, is that really you?" Truth be told, Lin Jin didn't think he would be surprised no matter what happened at this moment. Yet, he was still dumbfounded by Elder Mo's words. "Mother?" Lin Jin glanced at Elder Mo, then at the ice jade dragon. He felt like anything could happen. What the hell was going on? Upon hearing Elder Mo's voice, the ice jade dragon who was bound by the immortal binding rope also shuddered. Moa. At this time, the ice jade dragon let out a female voice. Then, its figure transformed into a beautiful middle-aged woman dressed in white. She looked to be in her 20s at most, but she had a dignified air about her. Elder Mo trembled in excitement, and even his voice had changed. "Mother, you're not dead?" "Haha, you're not dead. Greetings, Mother." Elder Mo prostrated himself on all fours and kowtowed. This scene of mother and son reuniting with one another left Lin Jin and the others speechless in shock. Even Shang'er couldn't help but roll her eyes. Elder Mo then turned to Lin Jin and begged, "Appraiser Lin, please let my mother go. I'm begging you, please let her go. I'll do anything you want me to do." Thud, thud, thud. Senior Dragon Mo kowtowed repeatedly. It could be seen that his kowtows came from the bottom of his heart. Lin Jin was still in a daze. He told Senior Mo to stop kowtowing and explain the situation before doing anything else. Then, Senior Mo stuttered as he recounted a matter. The Jade Dragon lair was originally divided into the Dragon Deity and Dragon Mother factions. The Dragon Deity was from Jade Dragon Temple, the one Lin Jin killed, while the Dragon Mother was this Ice Jade Dragon. Dragon Mother had 3 sons. Old Mo was the boss. It also had 2 younger brothers, but they died outside when they were out traveling. At that time, the Dragon Mother was eager for revenge and left the Jade Dragon Cave. Since then, her whereabouts have been unknown. I heard Moa addressing you as Appraiser Lin. Appraiser Lin, back then I was so desperate for revenge that I went out searching for my enemy for over a decade. I finally found him, but I wasn't his match and was severely injured. Filled with resentment, I became muddle-headed after that. I can't even remember how I was in prison here, but I know that it must be Appraiser Lin's doing that allowed me to regain my consciousness. Thank you, Appraiser Lin, for saving my life. Lin Jin nodded. He knew why Dragon Mother was possessed by the devil. She couldn't take revenge for her son, so she was filled with resentment and evil nature. Moreover, this evil nature could disturb her mind, which was why her memories were blurry and unclear. After being slashed by the demon slayer, the demonic nature was removed, allowing the Dragon Mother to regain her consciousness. In other words, Lin Jin had indeed saved her. After all, without the demon slayer, the only way to deal with a demonic dragon like this was to kill it. Lin Jin probed with his needle again to ensure that the demonic energy within the Dragon Mother's body had been completely removed. Then, he invoked a spell to retrieve the immortal binding rope. Everyone stared at the immortal binding rope with varying expressions. Some were surprised, some were envious. Zhao Jingyan, in particular, was someone who had seen the world, so she immediately recognized that the rope in Lin Jin's hand was a Jin family's artifact. As expected of Curator's disciple, he even has an artifact. Zhao Jingyan thought that if Lin Jin had such a powerful artifact, what kind of terrifying artifact would the Curator have? Her Phoenix Palace actually had an immortal artifact passed down from generation to generation, but none of them were as powerful as this golden rope. This rope could easily tie up a rank 5 monster. In a one-on-one fight, no one would be a match for Appraiser Lin. Dragon Mother had already flown over and helped Senior Mo to his feet. Senior Mo no longer had the lofty, mysterious aura and demeanor it had back at the Jade Dragon Lair. It was now bawling its eyes out. What a reunion between mother and son. Now that Dragon Mother was no longer a problem, Lin Jin suddenly felt like he was in luck today. At the very least, he could give I Chin a big present when he visited him. Now, let's get down to business, Lin Jin said. Zhao Jingyan was the first to react to Lin Jin's words. She immediately looked excited. In the beginning, she had indeed doubted Lin Jin's abilities, but she just didn't say it out loud. But now, she had to admit defeat. Curator's disciple was truly amazing. In a situation like this, Curator didn't seem to need to make a personal appearance anymore. And the important matter Lin Jin was talking about was obviously activating the abnormal flame to help her phoenix rise from the ashes. At the thought of this, Zhao Jingyan couldn't calm down. She had to dig her nails into her flesh to maintain her composure. Ever since her pet beast was destroyed, she had been through pain, despair, and even suicidal thoughts. But now, everything would change drastically. Elder Imo stared at her with wide eyes. Compared to Zhao Jingyan, Elder Imo let out a sigh of relief after seeing Dragon Mother regain her spiritual intelligence. His duty was to guard Dragon Mother here. Now that Dragon Mother was no longer a threat to him, it meant that an invisible shackle on him had been removed. With this, he wouldn't have to stay here anymore. He could go wherever he wanted and do whatever he wanted. Just the thought of it was enough to make one's heart flutter. Of course, Elder Mo was also very curious. He wanted to see what kind of deviant flame was hidden in this place that he had guarded for more than 20 years. Miss Zhao, you may begin, Lin Jin said. Opening the seal on the evil flame wasn't Lin Jin's job. Zhao Jingyan nodded. She obviously knew how to activate the evil flame here. She took out a bottle. The bottle was simple and unadorned, with exquisite carvings on it. After opening the lid, one could see that there seemed to be something flowing inside. This is the fire spirit blood. It is extremely precious. It can be used to seal and activate deviant flames. After Zhao Jingyan finished speaking, she dripped a few drops of the fire spirit blood out of the bottle. A few drops of crimson blood soon fell. At this height, Lin Jin couldn't see where they were landing, but he could clearly feel the force of those drops of blood. It was comparable to a few dozen tons of metal, the kind of force that could topple a mountain. The reputation of Phoenix Palace and Daluo Temple was indeed well-deserved. Of course, in Lin Jin's mind, Daluo Temple still came out on top. Just the fact that Daluo Temple had a real Buddha overseeing it made Phoenix Palace incomparable. Chapter 445. As the fire spirit's blood fell, as if it was corroding something, the magma below began to churn. It was as if something was trying to get out. A never-before-seen fire spirit energy gushed out from below. Being of the ice attribute, Dragon Mother was in great discomfort. Lin Jin had her retreat to the entrance, and only then did she feel better. Of course, to Lin Jin and Zhao Jingyan, this fire spirit energy was a great supplement. In any case, Xiaohua in Lin Jin's body was currently cheering excitedly, constantly absorbing this unique fire spiritual energy. The next instant, the color of the magma changed. Previously, it had been a bright scarlet color that was somewhat dazzling. However, at this moment, it had turned into a green color. Even the color of the entire cave had changed. The magma began to swirl, and a ball of green flame appeared in the center. This flame was so unique that even Lin Jin and Zhao Jingyan couldn't help but take a step back. This is an unusual flame, the Earth Brilliance Green Flame, Zhao Jingyan said at this moment. Phoenix Palace had clearly come up with a name for this unusual flame, and it was a very fitting one. Let's begin. Lin Jin could feel the terrifying power of this unusual flame. He mused, as expected of a rare, unusual flame. If I could use this, it would be amazing. At this, Zhao Jingyan quickly took out the phoenix egg. Speaking of which, although Zhao Jingyan had heard Curator mention how to resurrect the phoenix egg, knowing was one thing, but doing it was another. Moreover, with Lin Jin around, Zhao Jingyan was a little nervous. She glanced at Lin Jin and asked, "Appraiser Lin, do you need help?" She was afraid of failure. She couldn't take it anymore. After being betrayed by her subordinates, Zhao Jingyan was demoted from Phoenix Palace's great commander to the mortal world. Without a pet beast, she would never have a chance to make a comeback. She wanted to ask those who used to call her sisters, why did they betray her? She wanted to regain control of Phoenix Palace. Lin Jin could tell that Zhao Jingyan was worried. Truth be told, if Zhao Jingyan were to perform the resurrection by herself, it would indeed be risky. But since Lin Jin had added an Edict Fire amulet to the Phoenix egg back in the guest room, it shouldn't be a problem. Moreover, Lin Jin would be watching from the side. If anything went wrong, he could just intervene. Miss Zhao, don't worry. Just throw the Phoenix egg into the strange flame. Perhaps Lin Jin's nonchalance affected Zhao Jingyan because she took a deep breath and glanced at the Phoenix egg in her hand. Then, she tossed it into the air. Using some sort of trick, the Phoenix egg was enveloped in a gust of air as it slowly fell into the flame. With a boom, the deviant flame seemed to expand a little more than before. At this moment, the Phoenix egg was spinning within the strange flame, absorbing the power of the Earth's brilliant green flame. Zhao Jingyan was extremely nervous, and her fists were clenched so tightly that they were blue. Noticing this, Lin Jin advised, a phoenix's nirvana isn't an instant rebirth. It takes time. Hearing this, Zhao Jingyan relaxed a little. It was time for Lin Jin to get down to business. Xiaowa, Lin Jin called out, and a ball of flame leaped out from his arm. The flame coalesced into the shape of a smaller firewolf. It was Xiaowa. Xiaohua, your aptitude has always been ordinary. Under normal circumstances, the third level is already the peak. Now that you have entered the fourth level, if you want to advance again, it will naturally be much more difficult than those rare beasts. Fortunately, you have already cultivated the yin-yang dharma body, which is enough for you to refine your body with fire beasts like the phoenix. I will use the thunderfire needle to fix your dharma body in yuan spirit. After you enter the earthly brilliance green flame, remember to act according to your strength. If you can't take it, come out immediately. Xiaohua nodded obediently. Lin Jin flicked his wrist, and the thunderfire needle pierced into Xiaohua's body. Go! Following Lin Jin's command, Xiaohua leaped into the earth's brilliant green flame below. The earth's brilliant green flame was so powerful that it would be a waste to just use it for the phoenix's rebirth. This was mainly because Lin Jin knew that a phoenix was no ordinary bird. The amount of fire spiritual energy required for its nirvana rebirth was enough to drain a medium-sized earth fire spirit vein dry. It might not even be enough. After experiencing the phoenix's nirvana, the earth's brilliant green flame might be greatly damaged or even extinguished entirely. Since that was the case, Lin Jin might as well use this opportunity while the flame was still burning to its fullest. Why did the experts of Phoenix Palace seal this deviant flame back then, other than not wanting others to discover it? It was also because deviant flames were rare because their appearance was due to a combination of various reasons. After burning for a while, they would burn out completely. That was why they had to seal it. Once it was sealed, the consumption of the deviant flame would be reduced by 100 times. It was the same principle as storing food in a fridge. Now that the seal had been removed, instead of burning it, it would be a waste not to use it. Xiaohua's evolution this time was all thanks to the earth's brilliant green flame. Just then, Lin Jin heard a low growl. Turning around, he saw Elder Mo's pet beast, the fire lizard, pacing back and forth excitedly. However, it was afraid of the flames below, so it didn't dare to get any closer. After giving it some thought, Lin Jin said, "Everyone who sees this treasure deserves a share. You've been guarding this place with Elder Mo for more than 20 years, and you've done us a great service. Since that's the case, I'll give you this opportunity." Having said that, Lin Jin pierced a needle into the fire lizard's body. Then, he invoked a spell, and as if inspired, the fire lizard charged forward and jumped into the fire pit. Elder Mo was startled. If it was a regular earth fire spirit vein, his fire lizard wouldn't be afraid. But if it was in deviant flame, things would be different. If anything went wrong, his pet beast might just be burned to death. Looking forward, Elder Imo heaved a sigh of relief when he saw the situation below. The fire lizard didn't jump straight into the earth's brilliant green flame. Instead, it crouched close to the fire pit and used the surrounding flames to roast its body. This way, it could reap the benefits of the earth's brilliant green flame. Lin Jin had done what he needed to do. Now, all he had to do was wait. Everyone held their breaths as they watched intently. Behind him, Dragon Mother, who was carrying old Imo, stared at Lin Jin's back with a glint in her eyes. Having lived for several hundred years, Dragon Mother had seen and heard many experts in this world. After all, she was a rank 5 Jade Dragon back in the day. It was just that she wasn't bound by the Jade Dragon Kingdom and had her freedom. Unfortunately, fate was cruel. Her heirs died one after another and were harmed by others. When she went out to seek revenge, she wasn't a match for the enemy. After escaping from death, she felt indignant and resentful. That was how she became possessed. It was almost impossible to turn back after becoming possessed, and her fate was bound to be miserable. To think that she would meet Appraiser Lin who could help her get rid of the demonic energy. However, Dragon Mother didn't know much about Appraiser Lin, so she asked her son, Old Imo, in a hushed voice to find out more about Lin Jin. Dragon Mother was also very respectful toward Shang. She was a monster too, so she could tell that Shang was the same as her. However, Shang's aura was clearly stronger than hers, and she had addressed Appraiser Lin as Master Lin. In other words, Shang was Appraiser Lin's disciple. For an expert like Appraiser Lin to be willing to accept a monster as his disciple, would she stand a chance? Emboldening herself, Dragon Mother bowed at Shang. Chapter 446. On the surface, Little Five and White Ape were guarding the entrance of the Earth Fire Spirit Vein. Opposite them were some of Maple City's top characters. Other than Yi Yuzhou, Huang Fuming, and the others who had arrived earlier, the City Lord Manor was here as well. This time, it wasn't just Wu Wentong. City Lord Bai Jinkong was here as well. However, even if it was the City Lord, Little Five wouldn't let them pass. At first, Bai Jinkong was a little unhappy and wanted to throw a tantrum. However, Zhuo Wentong spoke up and pointed out Little Five's identity. After explaining Lin Jin's current status, Bai Jinkong fell silent. He couldn't afford to offend them. Some time ago, news of Curator attacking Daluo Temple had spread. As the lord of the city, how could Bai Jinkong not know about it? What kind of place was Daluo Temple? It was an existence that even their Jade Dragon Emperor had to look up to. Not even a premium country dared to provoke them. However, it was said that Curator single-handedly almost destroyed Daluo Temple with a spell. Back then, there were various versions of the story. There were even people who swore that they had seen the sun set with their own eyes. Although Bai Jinkong didn't believe all of them, there was no doubt that Curator was amazing. Bai Jinkong had long known that Lin Jin was Curator's disciple. Hence, even if he was given 100 guts, he wouldn't dare to provoke Lin Jin. Even Lin Jin's maidservant had to be courteous to him. If she said no, he wouldn't be able to enter. City Lord Bai, calm down. Since Appraiser Lin has gone down, he should be able to stabilize the situation no matter what happens, Yi Yuzhou suddenly said. He was a veteran in Maple City and had a high status. His words carried weight. I'm worried too. After all, there's a demon sealed beneath this place. If that demon were to come out, no one would be able to bear the responsibility, Bai Jinkong added. As a city lord, the fact that there was an earth fire spirit vein beneath Maple City and a demon sealed within it was only natural that Yi Yuzhou, a guardian of the nation, knew about it as well. Truth be told, Yi Yuzhou was a little worried at first. After all, he knew this secret. The monster sealed within the earth fire spirit vein might be a rank 5 existence. This wasn't a joke. Once they got out, forget Maple City, even the entire Jade Dragon Kingdom would be in danger. Still, Yi Yuzhou knew how capable Lin Jin was. Since Lin Jin was down there, he should be fine. That dragon roar from before might be the sign of the demon's emergence. I wonder what the situation is like down there. Bai Jinkong could not enter and could only worry helplessly. At this moment, Bai Jinkong's forehead was already covered in sweat, and he was constantly wiping it off. At this moment, someone said, "Everyone, don't you feel that the surrounding temperature is a little high?" Huh, it's true. I feel it too. The weather isn't hot yet. Why does it feel like summer? As time passed, the surrounding temperature became hotter and hotter. Yi Yujo cast a spell. Using his pet beast, the soaring cloud flood dragon, he gathered water vapor to help them cool down. But soon, the surrounding water vapor began to evaporate. Not only that, but Yi Yujo also noticed that his pet beast, the soaring cloud flood dragon, was terrified. It was as if there was something terrifying down there. Yi Yujo and the others knew that something major must be happening down there. But they had no idea what was going on. Needless to say, there was a nagging feeling in their hearts. The ground was hot, not to mention the fact that they were over 1,000 feet underground. The earthly brilliance green flames were burning at their maximum intensity. The temperature in the cavern was so high that it was suffocating. Dragon Mother had already hidden herself in the tunnel. No matter how capable she was, she couldn't hold out much longer. Elder Imo couldn't hold out much longer either. He was pushed into the tunnel as well, barely managing to hold out. Just then, a roar came from below. The fire lizard crawled out of the flames. Elder Mo's heart skipped a beat as a look of ecstasy appeared on his face. My pet beast has evolved. His fire lizard skin was like a freshly baked glazed tile. It was crystal clear and glowed with a fiery radiance. It was a beautiful sight to behold. Apart from that, the fire lizard's eyes were ablaze. As if its body had been reforged, it exuded a powerful aura. It had indeed evolved, from the 3rd grade to the 4th grade. Of course, Lin Jin's needles played a part in this, but more importantly, he borrowed the earthly brilliance green flame's fire spiritual energy. It was easy for a rare flame like this to help a fire lizard evolve. Elder Imo was lucky this time. Otherwise, with his Fire Kirin's talent and potential, it would have been impossible for it to evolve. Otherwise, as an elder of the Beast Appraisal Association, Elder Imo would have used it long ago if he had a way. He wouldn't have waited until now. Hence, Elder Imo was the happiest to see his pet beast evolve. From now on, he would be able to reach the National Guardian level. From now on, he would have a place of his own in the Jade Dragon Kingdom. Borrowing the power of the blood contract, Elder Imo benefited greatly from the evolution of his pet beast. Most importantly, he could now withstand the heat here. Although Elder Imo was excited, he didn't say a word. His fire lizard's evolution was undoubtedly an opportunity bestowed upon him by Lin Jin. However, it was only an appetizer. The main course was yet to come. At a time like this, Elder Imo had to finish watching. His life wouldn't be in vain if he could witness such a grand event. Indeed, neither Lin Jin nor Zhao Jingyan cared about the fire lizard's evolution. Moreover, the fire lizard had only been on the periphery of the earthly brilliance green flame. Now, there were only 2 shadows in the center of the flame. One was Zhao Jingyan's phoenix egg, and the other was Lin Jin's pet beast, Xiaohua. Zhao Jingyan began to feel nervous again. 2 hours had passed since the phoenix egg was tossed in. During this time, the phoenix egg didn't seem to change at all. Of course, she was nervous. "Appraiser Lin, what's the situation now?" Zhao Jingyan asked. Lin Jin had been paying close attention to the earthly brilliance green flame. Just as he was about to speak, he sensed something and immediately invoked a spell. "Vulcan Edict, activate!" In that instant, Lin Jin felt the Tri-Flame Edict amulet he tossed into the phoenix egg throb. It was hard to imagine how a talisman could feel the same throbbing as a human. But that was the truth. Other than that, due to the Fire Edict amulet, Lin Jin could feel the phoenix egg, which had been standing firm all this while, finally started to change. This sort of change would either not move, or would shake the heavens and earth once it did. At this thought, their surroundings began to tremble. The earthly brilliance green flame's original green color was now mostly crimson. Like a tangible scarlet satin, the flame began to change. Simultaneously, a piercing bird cry rang out from deep within the flame. Chapter 447. The bird's cry was so piercing that even Lin Jean felt dizzy from the impact. Even the entire Maple City could hear the piercing cry of the bird. What's that sound? Outside, Bai Jinkong looked horrified and his forehead was drenched in sweat. However, no one could answer his question. The crowd wore blank looks on their faces. But one thing was for sure, for a bird to cry like that, it was no ordinary beast. Because Yi Yuzhou could clearly sense his pet beast's fear. This had never happened before. What is Appraiser Lin doing down there? The Friar Association's mentors were shocked. After the bird's cry, there was a brief silence. Then, as if a gust of wind had blown over, it felt refreshing. But immediately after, the heat wave came again. This time, it was even hotter and more unbearable than before. The entire Maple City felt like it was being roasted on fire. Look over there. Someone with sharp eyes noticed the situation and pointed to the distant sky. When the crowd saw this, they revealed looks of disbelief. In the distant sky, there was a large black shadow spreading over here. It was like a moving dark cloud. The black shadow was very fast, and it didn't take long for everyone to see it clearly. How were those dark clouds? They were simply countless birds flying in the sky. The birds gathered together, blotting out the sun. At this moment, they could hear all sorts of bird cries. From a rough estimate, there were at least hundreds of thousands of birds, and they came in a variety of species. Some were ordinary birds, while others were obviously rare beasts. Some of the birds were huge in size, and when they spread their wings, they were at least 10 feet long. It was a sight to behold. Among the people present, even the older ones had never seen such a spectacle. After that, the birds and beasts didn't fly away. Instead, they circled above Maple City, making all sorts of noises and cries. At the same time, inside the underground fire cave, a long-tailed firebird flew out of the flames, bringing a silk-like flame up into the air. It looked like a phoenix. Even Lin Jean was overwhelmed with excitement. He had succeeded. This phoenix, which was originally dead and only left with some ashes, was condensed by him using a spell and then tempered by the exceptional flame. Finally, its nirvana was successful and it was reborn in the fire. After all, a phoenix's strength would increase by another level after being reborn. Although it didn't evolve, this phoenix was definitely one of the strongest rank 5 beasts. At this moment, the most excited person was Zhao Jingyan. Her hands were trembling uncontrollably. No words could describe how excited she was right now. Just as the curator had said, a phoenix was reborn from the ashes. It really came true. The curator was truly a god. Miss Zhao, you should use the Beastmaster Scroll to absorb the phoenix into your body. The phoenix's flames are too strong. I'm afraid this cave won't be able to take it. Lin Jean wasn't lying. Under the phoenix flames, the walls of the cavern began to melt. Strictly speaking, phoenix flames were a type of unusual flame. Now that the Earth Brilliance green flame had been added to the phoenix fire, even though the phoenix itself hadn't evolved, the power of the flames had multiplied. It was the same for his combat strength. Zhao Jingyan quickly nodded. She was now obedient to Lin Jin's words. In her eyes, both the curator and Lin Jin were top-notch experts. After Zhao Jingyan absorbed the phoenix in her body, Lin Jin raised his hand and grabbed something from within the flames. It was the Fire Edict amulet he had inserted into the phoenix egg. Lin Jin had cast Vulcan's charm on it. The seal was now burning like a flame, but Lin Jin was able to hold it in his hand without fear of being burned by the flames. That was because he had benefited greatly from this incident. The Fire Edict amulet was placed by Lin Jin and was infused with his psyche. With Lin Jin's previous experience in controlling dragon fire, he wouldn't be burned by the flames while holding the amulet, because this flame was a part of him. Condense. Lin Jin knew that this burning amulet couldn't be carried around, so he had to change its form. Lin Jin reached out and grabbed something else from the flames. It was a fragment of the phoenix egg's outer shell. These were condensed phoenix ashes. When Lin Jin clenched his fist, they turned into ashes as well. However, Lin Jin uttered the condense incantation and forcefully held the ashes and the amulet in his hand. The flames gradually disappeared. They weren't extinguished, but were absorbed into the amulet. By now, Lin Jin was sweating profusely. He wasn't an expert like the insect cultivator who had cultivated for more than 100 years. Strictly speaking, Lin Jin's foundation was still very weak. He could tell when he used the immortal binding rope earlier. While insect cultivators could use the rope freely, Lin Jin had a hard time using it. Lin Jin was putting his life on the line to condense the flame amulet. He purposely used force by piercing his palm and using his own blood to speed up the formation of the amulet. Fortunately, it worked. Lin Jin didn't open his palm to look at it immediately. Instead, he closed his eyes to rest. He couldn't help it. He was currently dizzy, and if he didn't rest, he might just faint. Zhao Jingyan didn't know what was going on. She thought Lin Jin was doing this on purpose because he was deep in thought, so she didn't dare to approach him. However, Shang'er had been with Lin Jin for a long time. The moment she noticed something amiss, she rushed over from the other side of the tunnel to support Lin Jin. Master Lin, Shang'er looked concerned. Although she was afraid of the heat, she couldn't care less at a time like this. Fortunately, her monster energy was dense, and she could release it to fend off some of the heat. It took Lin Jin a moment to recover. When he opened his eyes and saw Shang'er, he smiled. Thanks. However, even though Lin Jin had opened his eyes, Shang'er didn't dare to let go. She didn't say anything, but it was clear from her expression that she was extremely worried. Lin Jin opened his palm to reveal an unusual flame amulet in his palm. It seemed to be made of gold, but not wood. While it looked ordinary, it was in fact an extremely powerful magic weapon. This was Lin Jin's personal creation, a true magical artifact. In the future, with a fire amulet in hand, the power of dragon fire and the like would be on a whole new level. Lin Jin had used some tricks up his sleeve to recycle the ashes of the phoenix egg. Zhao Jingyan finally noticed that Lin Jin had almost fainted. She immediately looked guilty. She wanted to go over to help him, but seeing Shang'er beside him, she didn't dare, so she asked. I'm fine. Lin Jin looked down again. After all, Xiaohua was still inside. However, what he saw made Lin Jin gasp. The heavenly brilliant green flame, which had been vigorous just a moment ago, had actually absorbed 70 to 80% of its fire chi along with the phoenix's nirvanic rebirth. Right now, the heavenly brilliant green flame was only left with a fifth of its original strength. I knew it. Lin Jin knew that his previous judgment was correct. The museum mentioned that the amount of fire spiritual energy required for a phoenix to be reborn was terrifying. A regular earth fire spirit vein wouldn't be enough. Even an intermediate earth fire spirit vein wouldn't be enough. Perhaps only a superior earth fire spirit vein could support it. If it were an unusual flame, it would only be on the same scale as a superior earth fire spirit vein. Chapter 448. As the saying went, gain and loss go hand in hand. Fortune and misfortune are interdependent. For a rare beast like the phoenix to undergo nirvana, the price to pay was to completely drain an earth fire spirit vein. It was the same even for an unusual flame. The reason why there was still an unusual flame was because the earth brilliance green flame they encountered this time wasn't as simple as it seemed. Had it been any other unusual flame, nothing would have been left after the phoenix underwent nirvana. However, Lin Jin knew very well that the earth brilliance green flame here was doomed today. Because other than the phoenix undergoing nirvana, there was still Xiaohua below. Xiaohua was only evolving, not undergoing nirvana, so he didn't need as much spirit energy as the phoenix. However, for Xiaohua to evolve, the remaining unusual flames would most likely be gone. Although it was a pity, an unusual flame had allowed a rank 3 fire lizard to evolve to rank 4, a dead phoenix to undergo nirvana, and Xiaohua to evolve perfectly. It was already good enough. It could be said that an alien flame was an alien flame. Although Xiaohua found it a little difficult to endure down there, under the effects of the alien flame and the thunderfire needle, Xiaohua's doppelganger was once again refined. After absorbing the earth brilliant green flame, Xiaohua completed this advancement. Rank 4 to 5. This was something Lin Jin had been waiting for a long time. It had once again broken Xiaohua's limits. As an average fire wolf, his entire tribe might not have ever reached rank 5. Xiaohua was definitely the first. Just as Lin Jin expected, after Xiaohua evolved, the unusual flame below was completely extinguished, vanishing without a trace. In fact, it wasn't just the deviant flame. The earth fire spirit vein beneath Maple City had also dried up at the same time. Like a dried-up well, the initially scorching hot lava began to condense into black rocks, and the temperature in the area gradually dropped. Lin Jin beckoned, and Xiaohua hopped up. Xiaohua now looked different from when he was in the yin-yang Dharma body. Previously, the yin-yang Dharma body was made of fire and frost. Although it had form, it wasn't real. But now, Xiaohua looked more real, as if he had a physical body again. However, Lin Jin knew that wasn't flesh and blood. It was a characteristic of the Phoenix Flames. Lin Jin's heart skipped a beat. Why would Xiaohua have the Phoenix Flames characteristics? It should be noted that the Phoenix Flame was another type of abnormal flame. Lin Jin reached out to touch Xiaohua's head. After examining it, he was shocked. After the shock, he was overjoyed. So it turns out that little fire was in the midst of the Phoenix's nirvana. When it was advancing, it just so happened to be bathed in the Phoenix's flames, so it also fused with some of it. No wonder. That was a good thing. It was a great thing. The chances of fusing with other strange flames were extremely small. With the Phoenix Flame, Xiaohua would be able to possess some of the Phoenix's special characteristics and divine abilities. Of course, this would have to be slowly investigated in the future. In any case, one of the characteristics of the Phoenix Flames could already be seen from Xiaohua's body, and that was that it was like a real flame. This made Xiaohua look even more real than when he was in his avatar state. At rank 5, Xiaohua's strength had obviously increased by several folds. Lin Jin would slowly experience this. With a wave of his hand, Xiaohua melted into Lin Jin's arm. Lin Jin immediately felt a surge of energy coursing through his body. Let's go. The lava below was slowly cooling down. Although they could still see a faint red glow, it wouldn't be long before this place was completely extinguished. After all, both the earth fire spirit vein and the abnormal flame had dried up. Inside the tunnel, Senior Mo was fine, but Dragon Mother was unbearably hot. If it weren't for the thick monster energy, she might not have been able to hold on. Let's talk outside. Lin Jin glanced at them before leading the way. Shang'er supported him. Following behind him was Zhao Jingyan. She looked excited and exuded unprecedented confidence. She knew that she, Zhao Jingyan, the great commander of Phoenix Palace, was now like her pet beast, a phoenix rising from the ashes and rising from the ashes. She wanted to go back and take back everything that belonged to her. She wanted to confront those who betrayed her and ask them why they did it. Behind Zhao Jingyan was Elder Mo and his pet beast, Fire Lizard. Behind them were Dragon Mother, and Elder Mo Senior Mo was a little nervous. After all, it didn't know how to transform and rarely showed its face outside. What if someone found out about it? Although it wasn't weak, it wouldn't be a match for a true expert. Dragon Mother could tell what was on Senior Mo's mind. She reached out and patted it, gesturing for it not to be afraid. After their long conversation earlier, Dragon Mother was aware of Jade Dragon Kingdom's current situation. She also knew why her son had to come out, to seek refuge under Appraiser Lin, and for the sake of cultivation. Dragon Mother had her own way of cultivation in the outside world, but it was not suitable for Senior Mo. After all, their attributes were different. Dragon Mother cultivated an ice attribute cultivation method, so Senior Mo's cultivation method might not only bring no benefits, it might even bring harm to him. Even if Senior Mo could cultivate, his future wouldn't be as bright as following Appraiser Lin. Dragon Mother was an astute person. She could tell that Lin Jin was no ordinary person. If there was a chance, she would have her son follow her. Then, even if she died of old age, she would be able to rest in peace. Now, Dragon Mother no longer dared to think about revenge. She didn't want to go through the same experience again. Now, all she wanted was for her son to live on. It was a pity that she insisted on going out for revenge. 200 years had passed since then, and her son hadn't received any cultivation guidance. He had missed the best time to cultivate. Perhaps only by following Appraiser Lin would he have a chance at survival. They passed through the passageway together and came to the surface. Only then did they realize how lively it was outside. All the experts of Maple City had gathered, and there was a flock of birds circling overhead. When they saw Zhao Jingyan, they all chirped in unison to show their respect. The phoenix is the king of all birds. It's only normal for its nirvana energy to attract these birds. Lin Jin wasn't surprised. However, there were quite a number of ferocious birds among them. Flying around Maple City like this might attract trouble. Disperse. Lin Jin unleashed beast deterrence. As if a silent clap of thunder had exploded in the air, the hundreds of thousands of birds immediately scattered, fleeing for their lives. This move shocked everyone. However, everyone knew that Lin Jin was no ordinary person. They were used to seeing him perform such miraculous feats. Someone noticed Senior Mo, but no one questioned him. Senior Mo had followed Lin Jin out. If they spoke too much and angered Appraiser Lin, they would be in trouble. Now, even existences like Bai Junkong and Yuzhou felt uneasy around Lin Jin, let alone the others. They didn't even dare to speak at this point. Lin Jin looked around and immediately knew what was going on. He saluted them and said, "I caused quite a commotion just now. I'm sorry for disturbing you." At this, everyone quickly returned the salute. "Everything is fine now. You may return with peace of mind." Lin Jin clearly didn't intend to say anything else. Everyone could tell that, but they didn't dare to ask. Suppressing their curiosity, they could only leave helplessly. Chapter 449. Zhao Jingyan wasn't in a hurry to leave. She still had many things she wanted to ask Lin Jin about the Phoenix's nirvana. Now, she knew that they didn't have to look for Curator. Appraiser Lin would be able to solve any problems in the future. After all, Curator's subordinates were all experts, and it seemed like nothing in this world could stop them. Zhao Jingyan found out about Lin Jin's plan to go to Merak. So, Appraiser Lin is helping Curator scout the area. Zhao Jingyan suddenly said. Lin Jin nodded. No matter how she thought about it, there was no need to explain things so clearly. The current Zhao Jingyan was very different from before. She used to be a little hesitant, but now she was full of vigor. Simply put, she looked like a brand new person. Zhao Jingyan consulted Lin Jin on the rest of the matters, and Lin Jin answered her questions. They talked until late into the night before Zhao Jingyan reluctantly ended the conversation. Appraiser Lin, I've been greatly indebted to you. If there's a chance to help you in the future, as long as Appraiser Lin calls for me, I'll do anything for you, Zhao Jingyan promised. Lin Jin knew she was about to leave. That made sense. Her pet beast must have suffered a lot when it died. Now that the Phoenix had undergone nirvana, she would definitely go and deal with Phoenix Palace. Come to think of it, if she could reclaim Phoenix Palace, it would be beneficial to Lin Jin as well. Zhao Jingyan left in the middle of the night. With her personality, she would do whatever came to her mind. Her decisiveness didn't match her cold demeanor. Lin Jin seized the time to settle matters in Maple City. After all, he was going on a long journey and might only be back in a few months. The next day, a rank 2 beast appraiser who left the royal capital a few days ago arrived in Maple City. He was here to take over Chief Lin Jin's position. Although he was older and more experienced than Lin Jin, he was still very respectful in front of the latter. Thank you. After handing over his position as chief, Lin Jin took another look at the branch in Maple City. While he was away, the consultation hall would be managed by Zhao Ying, Lu Xiaoyun, and Jia Qian. With their current skills, Lin Jin didn't have to worry too much about them. I'm leaving. Back home, Shang'er was obviously reluctant. She requested to tag along several times, but Lin Jin turned her down. He was going to Merak to get promoted to rank 4 beast appraiser and to borrow Lord Daelord's heavenly scroll. Lin Jin could handle both on his own. On the other hand, Lin Jin needed an expert at Shang'er's level to oversee Maple City. The fact that insect Taoist had come looking for trouble was a reminder to Lin Jin. Perhaps there were already some people eyeing him. As the saying goes, a tall tree attracts the wind. He was famous enough now, and with the title of curator, it was impossible to hide. They all knew that Maple City was their territory. If someone with ill intentions came looking for trouble, it would be bad if there were no experts guarding the city. Not to mention, the Demonic Appraisal Association was still a potential threat. Yi Yuzhou was strong, but he was still lacking. Lin Jin was relieved to have Shang'er around. Shang'er was reluctant, but she had no intention of disobeying Lin Jin. Is Goldie still not awake? Lin Jin asked. Shang'er shook her head. Goldie had been asleep for a record amount of time. Those who didn't know better might think that the rooster was dead. But Lin Jin knew that wasn't the case. Goldie had eaten the rank 5 insect king and hundreds of other rare insects. That was why he was in such a deep sleep. Just let him sleep. Goldie has a unique physique. Using other methods would only slow him down. We'll do it when he wakes up, Lin Jin instructed. This time, Lin Jin first went to the royal capital to meet He Qian. After all, Lin Jin had promised the man that Dragon Mother and Old Mo would be going with him. Dragon Mother had spoken to Lin Jin alone for more than 2 hours. Outsiders had no idea what they talked about. But in the end, Lin Jin was bringing these 2 jade dragons to the royal capital. After settling the mother and son down an inn, Lin Jin disguised himself in a secluded spot. He put on the curator's mask, changed his aura, and headed straight for the royal capital. The sun was setting. There were still many pedestrians in the royal capital. After all, this was the most prosperous capital city in Jade Dragon Kingdom. Lin Jin wore the curator's mask and walked in the middle of the road toward the royal capital. Along the way, people noticed him and started whispering and pointing at him. The royal capital was filled with the emperor's spies. Hence, the moment the curator appeared, He Qian received the news. He Qian was excited. He could finally meet the curator. As the emperor of an intermediate country, the last time he was this excited was when he inherited the throne. The curator's title was even more resounding than before. Just barging into Daluo Temple alone was impressive enough. Not only did he escape unscathed, but he was also escorted by an eminent monk of Daluo Temple. This was akin to challenging someone's home and beating them up. Yet, not only did they not get angry, they even befriended you. Without strength, this kind of thing was simply a fantasy. With strength, this was reality. It was for this reason that He Qian looked forward to meeting the curator, even if the curator didn't provide him or the Jade Dragon Kingdom with any substantial help. Just being able to meet him was enough. At He Qian's level, he no longer viewed problems in terms of tangible benefits. Instead, he had to look at things from a long-term perspective. Meeting the curator was a huge benefit in itself. Who was the curator? He was someone who single-handedly barged into Daluo Temple and was even escorted back respectfully by Daluo Temple's abbot. He was someone who had the guts to declare a blameless demon cannot be punished in front of so many monks of Daluo Temple. The fact that he could meet the curator was a huge boost to the Jade Dragon Kingdom. This invisible benefit and leverage would definitely last for a long time. Others aside, the intermediate countries that had border disputes with the Jade Dragon Kingdom would definitely be afraid and consider retreating after hearing this news. They could afford to offend the Jade Dragon Kingdom, but not the curator. Of course, if the curator was willing to provide them with substantial help, that would be even better. In short, He Qian placed great importance on this meeting. After receiving the news, he immediately arranged for the palace's ceremonial officer to make arrangements. To ensure the highest standards, all officials, whether they were attending a funeral or waiting for the child to be born, had to rush over unconditionally in formal attire to welcome the curator. The same went for everyone in the royal family. If anyone dared to screw up at a time like this, He Qian wouldn't hold back. As for himself, he was already neatly dressed and waiting at the palace entrance. Behind him were hundreds of officials and members of the royal family. This was an unprecedented scene. Before Lin Jin reached the palace, the ceremonial officer rushed over to welcome him. Under the orders of His Majesty, the Emperor of Jade Dragon Kingdom, we are here to welcome the curator. The armored general's voice was loud and clear. He had given Lin Jin enough respect. Lin Jin remained calm. He cupped his fists and said, "Please lead the way," surprisingly polite. Chapter 450. The general was thrilled. He had heard of his curator's feats. Even His Majesty treated this legendary figure with such respect, yet he was so approachable. In other words, an expert was indeed an expert. The general did not dare to be negligent. After saluting, he immediately led the way. The road from here to the palace had long been cleared by the royal guards. It was clean and empty. Only the ceremonial soldiers on both sides of the road stood upright like javelins. It was a grand procession. It was odd that Curator Qian had organized such a grand procession in such a short period of time. Lin Jin didn't say much as he followed. It didn't take long before he saw a huge crowd at the palace. He Qian was leading the way, striding forward to welcome them. He Qian didn't look like a monarch at all. Instead, he looked more like a local official welcoming his superior. Truth be told, even if Lin Jin didn't care about such things, he couldn't help but feel good about this scene. This He Qian was truly a capable man. When he got closer, He Qian bowed. I've long heard of Curator's great name. It's He Qian's honor to finally meet you today. Yes, he really could. Lin Jin knew that such ceremonies and etiquette were sometimes meaningless. Some people liked it, but he didn't. However, he had to admit that He Qian's actions today made him feel something. Sincerity. Through this method, He Qian had thoroughly displayed his sincerity. To be able to ascend to the throne, he was indeed extraordinary. For a first meeting like this, where both parties weren't familiar with each other, this kind of procession was the best way to express his sincerity. Lin Jin liked his undiluted sincerity. He saluted back, and the two of them walked together. The officials, ministers, and members of the royal family followed behind them obediently. Curator. Just then, someone walked out. Lin Jin turned to see that it was He Qian. Lin Jin smiled and beckoned for her to come over. When He Qian saw this, he felt relieved. His daughter and curator had known each other for a long time, and He Qian already knew about this. He had tacitly allowed He Qian to come out so that they could get closer to curator. It was hard for him to say anything, but it was much easier for He Qian to do it. "All right, you are. Come and pay your respect to Grandmaster." He Qian took the opportunity to call out the timid He Yu as well. Back at the Jade Dragon Lair, Lin Jin's joke had given He Qian an opportunity to make He Yu his disciple. In this case, it was reasonable for Lin Jin to address curator as Grandmaster. Lin Jin felt helpless. He Qian was a sly old fox. Whenever there was a gap, he would take advantage of it. Since Lin Jin was here as curator, He Qian naturally had a request to make. What he wanted was nothing more than a 5th-grade beast. A rank 5 pet beast was a stepping stone to becoming a premium country. Once upon a time, Jade Dragon Kingdom relied on the Jade Dragon deity for a brief period of time. But as the Jade Dragon deity irresponsibly retreated, Jade Dragon Kingdom's status fell. As the emperor, He Qian naturally wanted to restore the glory of his ancestors. This was very important to him. However, Lin Jin had no time for him to evolve his pet beast. In addition, He Qian's Jade Dragon wasn't particularly talented. Although it wasn't impossible to evolve it, it would come at a hefty price. If not for Dragon Mother, Lin Jin could have helped He Qian evolve his pet beast. But now that he had Dragon Mother, it was unnecessary. They were both rank 5 Jade Dragons, so it made no difference. Hence, when Lin Jin deliberately ignored He Qian's request, He Qian didn't dare to push him too hard. When Lin Jin was about to leave, He Qian couldn't help but approach him and plead. "I won't be involved in pet beast evolution. Just look for my disciple." Lin Jin pushed the blame onto himself. No one else could do something like this. But, He Qian was going crazy. He wanted to beg again, but was afraid the curator would get angry. "That's it. My disciple has already made arrangements. Your Majesty, why do you have to worry about others?" Having said that, Lin Jin summoned a cloud and left on it. In the blink of an eye, he was far away. Seeing Curator leave, Qian felt a sense of loss. Little did he know that in an hour at most, he would be greeted with a surprise. Or maybe it wouldn't even take an hour, because Dragon Mother was already on her way to the palace. Somewhere outside the royal capital, Lin Jin descended from the cloud. Then he took off his mask. Once upon a time, he only appeared as curator because he had no other choice. But who would have thought that he would actually use this identity? Especially after the incident at Daluo Temple. Curator's name had spread far and wide. At least for now, this was a good thing. Lin Jin planned to set out. But just then, Lin Jin sensed an aura approaching from afar. Looking up, he saw something dashing toward him at breakneck speed. It was Senior Mo Appraiser Lin. Before Senior Mo arrived, he heard his voice. Senior Mo was a four-clawed jade dragon. Although it couldn't fly, it could run extremely fast. Due to its earth attribute, it looked sturdy. When it got closer, Senior Mo knelt down and kowtowed. Old Mo, why aren't you with Dragon Mother? Lin Jin asked. According to Lin Jin's instructions, Dragon Mother was tasked with protecting the Jade Dragon Kingdom from now on. Senior Mo would naturally follow her. Appraiser Lin, you've saved my mother, and I have no way to repay you. I'm willing to spend the rest of my life serving Appraiser Lin. I hope Appraiser Lin will take pity on me and grant my wish. Senior Mo didn't beat around the bush and went straight to the point. Clearly, Dragon Mother had taught him this. Senior Mo didn't ask to be Lin Jin's disciple, but merely said that he would follow him to repay his kindness. This way, Senior Mo still had a chance of being kept by Lin Jin's side. Otherwise, he wouldn't stand a chance at all. However, despite Senior Mo's pleading, Lin Jin had no intention of agreeing. Just as he was about to shake his head and dismiss Senior Mo, the dragon said something else that changed Lin Jin's mind. Senior Mo said, I only want to repay a debt of gratitude. Appraiser Lin is going to Merak, and it just so happens that I've been there more than 100 years ago, so I have some understanding of the place. If Appraiser Lin doesn't mind, I'm willing to lead the way. These words struck a chord with Lin Jin's heart. He had never been to Merak country before. Riding on an eagle beast might be a waste of time. If he had someone who had been there to lead the way, it would be much more convenient. Senior Mo continued to add fuel to the fire. Appraiser Lin, once we reach Merak, I'll leave and I won't disturb you. I hope Appraiser Lin can fulfill my filial wish on account of my mother. Repaying a debt of gratitude on behalf of one's mother was filial piety. Lin Jin understood this principle. Moreover, Senior Mo had already put it this way. If Lin Jin still didn't agree, he'd be too stubborn and unreasonable. All right, I'll have to trouble you to lead the way then. Lin Jin agreed. Senior Mo was ecstatic. It quickly transformed into a smaller version of Senior Mo so that it could sit on the eagle beast. Otherwise, if it were to revert to its original form, it would be several times larger than the eagle beast. Senior Mo mused, as long as Appraiser Lin agrees, everything will be fine. Thanks to its mother's advice, Senior Mo knew that if it had begged Lin Jin to take it in as a disciple or asked for a cultivation method, Lin Jin would most likely reject it. But now, if Appraiser Lin agreed to let it lead the way, it might be able to receive pointers from Appraiser Lin during their journey to Merak country. Even if it was just a few words, it would be immensely beneficial. In the worst-case scenario, even if it wasn't a few words of advice, at least Senior Mo could make its presence known. This would be beneficial for the future. Chapter 451. This wasn't Lin Jin's first time traveling. The last time he went to Daluo Temple, Jade Dragon Kingdom was thousands of miles away. Even with the eagle, it still took him 2 to 3 days to get there. This time, he was in a heavenly spiral nation, which was located in the center of Continent Center. It was even further away than Daluo Temple. Even with the eagle, it would take at least 3 to 5 days. Lin Jin wasn't in a hurry. There was no need to travel day and night. Moreover, he had never been to Continent Center's hinterland. It would be a waste if he didn't enjoy the scenery along the way. To Senior Mo, this was indeed a fortuitous encounter. Along the way, it mustered its courage to ask Lin Jin about beast appraising. Although Lin Jin knew what Senior M.O. was planning, he had nothing better to do, so he told the dragon about it. The mountains beneath them flew past. The wild geese were traveling together with the moon and the breeze, carefree and joyful. The eagle flew for several hours. When Lin Jin noticed that the eagle was exhausted, he let it land to rest. In fact, they had already left Jade Dragon Kingdom's territory and were now in a neighboring country. The sky was still dark, but it was getting hazy. Lin Jin could vaguely see a large village in the distance, with smoke rising from the chimneys. There was no GPS navigation in this world. Lin Jin only had a rough map to get to Heavenly Spiral Nation. If he kept flying, he would most likely get lost. Hence, every once in a while, Lin Jin would have to come down and ask for his current location so that he could compare it with the map and get his bearings. Of course, Lin Jin had asked Senior M.O. about it. However, the old dragon who had been to Heavenly Spiral Nation confidently couldn't tell their location from the sky. Senior M.O. hesitated for a long time before saying sheepishly, "Appraiser Lin, I traveled by land the last time, so I got dizzy in the air." Lin Jin didn't say a word. It seemed like bringing Senior M.O. along wouldn't be of any use. However, it wasn't Lin Jin's way of doing things. Dragon Mother was willing to listen to Lin Jin's suggestion to guard Jade Dragon Kingdom for two reasons. One, it was to repay a debt of gratitude. Two, it was because she wanted to entrust her only son to Lin Jin. Lin Jin understood. Speaking of which, although Senior M.O. was a little arrogant and impulsive, which didn't match its 200-year-old age, Lin Jin could see that the dragon was filial. Filial piety meant loyalty. And with Lin Jin's careful observation and probing, Senior M.O. was still trustworthy. Since that was the case, there was no harm in letting him tag along. Lin Jin was experienced in teaching monsters. Moreover, Senior M.O. wasn't considered a monster yet. It might even be more talented than White Ape, so it was still a dragon. If he chose the right path of cultivation, he would at least surpass Jade Dragon Deity and Dragon Mother. That was what Lin Jin was thinking, but he didn't let any of it show on his face. Senior M.O. was rather nervous. Afraid that Lin Jin would chase him away, the old dragon acted cautiously. Now, Lin Jin wanted to head to the village and ask about this place. After calibrating his location and direction, he would continue on his way. Lin Jin stood in front, while Old M.O. followed behind. Old M.O. was now the size of a slightly larger dog. He even looked a little mini and cute. Based on his appearance alone, Old M.O. looked more like a four-legged snake than a dragon. Now, he was tailing behind, just like Lin Jin's pet beast. By the time they arrived at the village, the sky was already turning bright. There were already people walking along the road. Most of them had woken up early to work, and they were accompanied by pet beasts such as cattle and hunting dogs. The village seemed to be quite peaceful. Lin Jin stopped a villager and asked him about the name of this place. Referring to the map, Lin Jin nodded. Although it was a little off the mark, it wasn't too far off. He just had to calibrate his location and continue on his way. However, Lin Jin suddenly heard snoring. Turning around, he saw a man sleeping soundly on a table in a tavern that had just opened for business. Empty wine jars littered the table and the floor. A drunkard, Old M.O. grumbled from behind. Lin Jin's eyebrows twitched as he realized that the person sprawled on the table looked familiar. And so, Lin Jin walked over. The tavern had clearly just opened for business, but the man sleeping soundly on the table didn't seem to have just arrived. In other words, he had been drinking here all night. After asking the waiter, Lin Jin was sure enough. This master came yesterday afternoon and didn't leave until he was done drinking. At that time, he was already drunk. The shopkeeper was afraid that something would happen, so he didn't dare to drive him away. He just asked him to stay here. Look, he still hasn't woken up yet. The waiter also looked helpless when he mentioned this. Sir, do you know him? If you do, please do me a favor and send him away. Lin Jin smiled. Indeed, I do know him. Please make me a pot of hot tea. As he spoke, Lin Jin handed the waiter some silver. Money was always the easiest way to get things done. At the sight of the silver, the waiter immediately perked up. All right, Please have a seat, sir. Please wait for a moment, and the hot tea will be served soon. Having said that, the waiter left. As he got closer, Lin Jin took a closer look and recognized the man lying on the table. He didn't know him, and they were very familiar with each other. Reaching out to pat the man, Lin Jin whispered, Master Gu, Master Gu. The drunkard sleeping in the wilderness was none other than Jade Dragon Kingdom's famous calligraphy master, Gu Mingzhong. However, Gu Mingzhong was no longer as carefree as he used to be. He was now in dire straits. It had been months since Lin Jin and Master Gu met. He wondered what had happened during this time for Gu Mingzhong to be in such a state. Didn't he say he was going to travel the world with his sword and settle all injustice? The sentiments and wishes of a literati were unrealistic to begin with. Things in this world weren't that simple. There were hidden talents everywhere, and it was difficult to tell right from wrong. Hence, Gu Mingzhong's chivalrous nature had to wake up sooner or later. However, Lin Jin didn't expect Master Gu to run into trouble so soon. Fortunately, he was the one who ran into him. Otherwise, who knew what would have happened? Since Master Gu was still in a drunken stupor, Lin Jin might as well let him sleep. After a while, the waiter returned with hot tea. Lin Jin picked up a cup and tentatively offered it to Master Gu. Perhaps sensing the moisture, the latter smacked his lips before reaching out to take the cup and gulping it down in one gulp. Do you have more to quench my thirst? Gu Mingzhong asked in a hoarse voice with his eyes closed. Lin Jin knew that drunkards tended to feel parched after waking up, so he had the waiter prepare a large pot of hot tea in advance. Yes, I have as much as I can. Lin Jin poured another cup for Gu Mingzhong. This time, Gu Mingzhong gulped it down as well. Without waiting for Lin Jin to pour another cup, Gu Mingzhong picked up the pot and started drinking. Gulp, gulp, this feels great, Gu Mingzhong said after drinking the entire pot of tea before opening his eyes. Thank you. May I know your name? After opening his eyes, Gu Mingzhong was stunned to see Lin Jin. He couldn't finish his sentence. Chapter 452. Brother Lin. Gu Mingzhong cried out involuntarily. He was genuinely surprised. This wasn't the Jade Dragon Kingdom. It was at least 1,000 miles away, and he didn't expect to run into an old friend here. Master Gu, I was just passing by and happened to run into you. Did something happen? Lin Jin asked. Gu Mingzhong was different from others. Back then, Gu Mingzhong was one of the few people who supported him. Lin Jin was a man who remembered kindness. Gu Mingzhong and Master Chef Liao held different positions in his heart. Hence, when Gu Mingzhong was in trouble, Lin Jin would help him even if it meant delaying his work. Gu Mingzhong seemed to recall something and shook his head. It's nothing. It's been a while since we last met. Let's have a drink. Waiter, bring some wine. The waiter paled at this. Bring wine? You drank it all yesterday, and if you get drunk again, how could you just stay here and refuse to leave? Hence, the waiter didn't move. Of course, it was also because he saw Lin Jin shaking his head at him. Of course, he chose to listen to Lin Jin. Master Gu, drinking tea is the same. You're right, it's been a while since we last met. Now that we've run into an old friend in a foreign land, we should have a good chat. Lin Jin had the waiter serve another pot of tea. Gu Mingzhong nodded. He asked about Lin Jin's recent situation. Gu Mingzhong clearly didn't know about the recent happenings in the Jade Dragon Kingdom. This meant that he had been leading a befuddled life for quite some time now. All the more reason for Lin Jin to leave. He had to figure out what was going on. After a few more inquiries, Gu Mingzhong finally sighed. I wasn't going to tell you about this at first since I didn't want to drag you into it. But since you insist, I'll tell you about it. Gu Mingzhong took a sip of tea. This time he was using a cup. After drinking the pot of tea, Gu Mingzhong's drunkenness had subsided significantly. Once Gu Mingzhong said this, Lin Jin understood what was going on. As the saying went, spending time with a woman makes one haggard. Only a woman could make someone like Master Gu lose his composure like this. To tell you the truth, when I was young, I stayed in Heavenly Spiral Nation for a few years. Back then, Heavenly Spiral had a world-renowned art academy, and I was one of its students. At that time, Gu Mingzhong was 16 or 17 years old, a youthful age. There was a female teacher in the Academy of Fine Arts who was good at painting. She was dignified and elegant, a feast for the eyes. Gu Mingzhong learned painting from her, and after a long time, he naturally fell in love with her. This kind of thing was very normal. He was a hot-blooded youth, and he spent all his time with a female teacher. She was also good at painting and looked good. It was impossible for him not to have any improper thoughts. According to Gu Mingzhong, most of the admirers at his age were the female teacher, and he was just one of them. Later on, as Gu Mingzhong's drawing skills improved, the female teacher began teaching him on her own, and they developed feelings for each other. Once I was done with my studies, I planned to return to the Jade Dragon Kingdom. At that time, I threw caution to the wind and confessed my feelings to my teacher. But she didn't agree, saying that I was still young and didn't understand the relationship between a man and a woman. Little did she know that my feelings for her were sincere. Seeing how serious I was, she told me to wait for another 10 years. Once I made a name for myself and can roam the world with my sword, I can look for her again. Gu Mingzhong seemed to be smiling and crying at the same time. Although he was sober, he was still tipsy. This was the only way he could speak his mind. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to say something like this when he was sober. But 10 years later, my drawing skills improved, so I went to look for her. She said that I lacked chivalry and asked me to wait another 10 years. I came back in a fit of anger. Not only did I hone my drawing skills, I also practiced my swordsmanship. Gu Mingzhong looked determined. However, Lin Jin could tell that the female teacher was rejecting him in a roundabout way. 10 years after that, she wanted Gu Mingzhong to back off. But who knew that Gu Mingzhong would be so stubborn? Now that the 20 years are up and I have the ink monster, I can transform into a sword at will. I could travel the world with my sword, but it's unfair. I wanted to look for her again, but this time, she didn't even see me. She just said that she was holding me back and that we weren't meant to be together. Gu Mingzhong was in a daze. Onlookers see things more clearly. Lin Jin understood what the female teacher meant. She wanted Gu Mingzhong to give up on his own for 20 years, but to think that Gu Mingzhong persisted. That was why the female teacher said that she was holding Gu Mingzhong back. After some thought, Lin Jin said, "There's something that I'm not sure if I should say. Brother Lin, you and I are best friends. You can say whatever you want," Gu Mingzhong said. Lin Jin nodded. 20 years isn't a short time. Even the prettiest person will grow old eventually. Moreover, as your teacher, I'm only a few years older than you, so it's normal for her to refuse to see you. Lin Jin made himself clear. The female teacher was older than Gu Mingzhong to begin with, and after 20 years, she might have aged by now. Not meeting Gu Mingzhong was for his own good. However, Lin Jin didn't expect Gu Mingzhong to have such deep feelings for her that he couldn't even recover from the setback. Speaking of which, these were definitely Gu Mingzhong's secrets. He had been holding in for a long time and couldn't find anyone to confide in. Lin Jin was the only one who could tell him. Who would have thought that Master Gu, who was known as the #1 expert in Jade Dragon Kingdom, would have such troubles? Of course, there was one more important point that Lin Jin left out. She had rejected him time and time again. It was obvious that she wasn't interested in you, Master Gu. Why must you be so stubborn? In the world before Lin Jin transmigrated, there was a phrase that suited the current Master Gu very well. What was it called again? Of course, Lin Jin couldn't say this aloud. Right now, Master Gu was pouring out his frustrations. I don't mind her aging. In my eyes, she's still how she used to be. She'll never change, Master Gu said. Lin Jin shook his head. Master Gu saw this and assumed that Lin Jin didn't agree with his words. Brother Lin, you don't believe me? All right, I'll show you. Having said that, Master Gu took out a painting from a bag beside him. It was kept in a wooden box, and Lin Jin could tell that Master Gu cherished it very much as he carried it around with him. The painting unfurled, and a woman appeared vividly on the paper. Lin Jin had seen all sorts of masterful paintings, but this one still managed to stun him. The artist's artistic skills were unparalleled. The woman's expression was vivid, as if she was alive. The woman was dressed in a long dress and was sitting on a rock by the river, combing her long hair. Just by staring at her, one would be drawn into the painting. As for her looks, this woman could be said to be devastatingly beautiful. She was even better than Shauna now. Of course, the real person might not look like this. Perhaps Master Gu had deliberately overlooked the woman's flaws when he was painting. Beauty was in the eye of the beholder. I don't care about her looks. She's my teacher. Her drawing skills have long been superb. Even my current skills are nothing compared to hers, Gu Mengzhong said. Chapter 453. Perhaps it was because he had vented his frustrations. Master Gu seemed to be in better spirits than before. He knew that it was pointless even if he told Lin Jin about it. But at least one person would understand his feelings now. Next, the conversation turned to Lin Jin's purpose for coming here. Brother Lin, you're going to Heavenly Spiral Nation too? Gu Mengzhong was stunned. Lin Jin nodded and told Gu Mengzhong about his recent happenings in Jade Dragon Kingdom. Only then did Gu Mengzhong snap out of his daze. So you're a rank 3 beast appraiser now, Brother Lin? Moreover, Appraiser Tan Sun was the one who recommended you to Heavenly Spiral Nation. This means that Appraiser Tan Sun and the others believe that you're qualified to become a rank 4 beast appraiser. This is great news, great news. Gu Mengzhong was elated. Right now, he really needed something happy to cheer himself up. Lin Jin could also tell that Gu Mengzhong was genuinely happy for him. There was no pretense in his expression. Brother Lin, this is your first time going to Heavenly Spiral, and you're unfamiliar with the place. I'll bring you there, Gu Mengzhong said enthusiastically. Lin Jin nodded after some thought. No matter what, Gu Mengzhong was more reliable than Elder Mo. Just then, Gu Mengzhong noticed Elder Mo following behind Lin Jin. This is a jade dragon. Gu Mengzhong's eyes lit up. He was a knowledgeable man, and being from Jade Dragon Country, he knew a thing or two about dragons that were native to Jade Dragon Country. Master Gu, you have a good eye. Elder Mo, greet Master Gu. Lin Jin turned and said. Elder Mo immediately went forward and bowed before greeting Gu Mengzhong. Greetings, Master Gu. Gu Mengzhong's forehead was beaded with sweat. A jade dragon that could speak. This was rare. Of course, Gu Mengzhong had been traveling the world with his sword and had seen many things he had never seen before. For example, monsters. Monsters that could speak were those who had cultivated their hyoid bones to speak the human language. Clearly, this jade dragon was one of them. Taking a closer look, this jade dragon had an extraordinary aura. It was most likely rank 4. In other words, having a rank 4 jade dragon by Lin Jin's side was quite frightening. Brother Lin, you're acting like one of those spoiled brats from the Tianxian kingdom, Gu Mengzhong said at this time. Lin Jin was stunned, but quickly reacted. Do all the hedonistic sons of Sky Spiral Nation bring along rank 4 pet beasts when they go out? Lin Jin found it hard to believe. After all, rank 4 beasts were the mainstays of an intermediate country. However, Gu Mengzhong nodded very seriously. Don't doubt me. In a place like a high-class country, the waters are deep, and you have to be careful. Wait for me for a while. I'll freshen up, and then we'll go together. Lin Jin nodded. Lin Jin was thinking, no matter how impressive those good-for-nothings were, they can't compare to Feng Feng. After a while, Gu Mengzhong came out after freshening up, but he looked brand new. Although he still had a beard, there was a sense of maturity and vicissitudes. On Gu Mengzhong's waist hung a gourd. However, it was not filled with wine, but with his ink beast. Ink monsters were even rarer than jade dragons. They were both born at rank 3, but they would grow to be much stronger in the future. Lin Jin took a closer look and noticed that Gu Mengzhong's ink monster was showing signs of evolution. After all, several months had passed since the last blood pact. Gu Mengzhong had brought this ink monster with him as he traveled far and wide, experiencing many battles. The ink monster could gain strength through its blood. In other words, the more people and beasts it killed, the more benefits it would gain. Master Gu, this ink dragon of yours isn't bad. As Tang spoke, he turned to Senior Mo and said, Old Mo, lend me some dragon blood. Senior Mo didn't understand, but since Lin Jin had asked, forget a little dragon blood. Even a basin would be fine. Taking out a porcelain bowl, Senior Mo scratched his wrist with his claws and drained a bowl of blood. That's enough. Lin Jin stopped old Mo. In fact, he only needed a few drops of dragon blood. Who knew old Mo would be so honest? Of course, a little more dragon blood was good too. Lin Jin poured the ink dragon from the gourd into the bowl of dragon blood. In an instant, the ink dragon happily sucked on the blood. To this ink dragon, rank 4 ink dragon blood was a rare tonic. At the same time, Lin Jin took out a pill, crushed it between his fingers, and sprinkled it into the bowl. The fragrance of the crushed pill was refreshing. Gu Mingzhong didn't dare to make a sound. He could tell that Lin Jin was trying to help his ink dragon evolve. This ink dragon was born as a rank 3. If it evolved, it would be rank 4. There weren't many beast appraisers in this world who could help a rank 3 beast appraiser evolve to rank 4. They had to be at least rank 3 beast appraisers. Even a rank 3 beast appraiser might not be able to do it completely. There might be harsh conditions, such as taking a long time to prepare. On the other hand, Lin Jin didn't have that many things prepared. He just picked up the task and did it quickly and efficiently. Based on this alone, Appraiser Tan Sun had made the right decision in recommending Lin Jin to Spiral Nation's Beast Appraisal Association for his advancement to rank 4. This was Gu Mingzhong's first time witnessing a rank 3 beast evolve to rank 4. He was excited, but he didn't dare to make a sound lest he disturb Lin Jin. But in the next instant, Lin Jin reached out and grabbed the ink dragon from the bowl, stuffed it back into the gourd, and handed it over. Gu Mingzhong was stunned. He didn't take it. Lin Jin said, "Master Gu." Gu Mingzhong snapped out of his daze and quickly reached out to take the gourd. He was still grumbling inwardly, thinking that he was overthinking things. How could a rank 3 evolution be so simple? He was overthinking things. Lin Jin wasn't trying to help the ink dragon evolve. But the moment Gu Mingzhong took the gourd, he felt a connection from their blood contract. A surge of energy appeared out of thin air, invigorating Gu Mingzhong. Gu Mingzhong was no fool. This was clearly the kind of improvement a pet beast would experience after evolving. He immediately invoked a sword spell, and the ink dragon inside the gourd gushed out, coalescing into a sword in his hand. There was a hint of blood on this sword. As the owner of the ink dragon's blood contract, how could Gu Mingzhong not notice that the ink dragon had evolved to rank 4? Breeze sword to sweep away all worries. Gu Mingzhong tossed the sword in his hand. In an instant, the sword returned, and a flagpole about 100 feet away was silently sliced in half. Gu Mingzhong was thrilled. The ink dragon's strength had increased by leaps and bounds. Even his self-created sword skill had increased in power. It was at least 10 times stronger than before. How could Gu Mingzhong not be excited? After his excitement, he was even more shocked by Lin Jin's skills. You can easily evolve a rank 3 beast to rank 4. Brother Lin, your skills are already at the level of a rank 4 beast appraiser, Gu Mingzhong said confidently. Chapter 454. Master Gu, have you met a rank 4 beast appraiser before? Lin Jin was curious. If the man had, he could tell him about it. Gu Mingzhong smiled. Let's talk about this on the way. After paying for the drinks, Gu Mingzhong and Lin Jin left the village together. When they reached a secluded area, Lin Jin summoned his eagle, while Gu Mingzhong took out a flute and blew into it. Soon, a large white crane descended. Lin Jin was surprised. Eagles were rare in J-Dragon Kingdom, and most people wouldn't even own one. Who would have thought Gu Mingzhong would get himself a bird like this on this trip? However, Lin Jin felt that the eagle was sturdy. The white crane was a size smaller than the eagle and too skinny. This white crane is a gift from an old friend of mine in Tianxian Nation. It's quite rare, but it can't fly fast. Brother Lin, I'll have to ask you to accommodate me later. Gu Mingzhong said with a smile. Lin Jin nodded, and the two of them took off together, with Gu Mingzhong leading the way. Admittedly, Gu Mingzhong's image was quite divine. With a gourd sword hanging from his waist and a white crane on his back, he wielded his sword to slay evil. Gu Mingzhong was clearly the type of man who grew more mature and charismatic as he got older. Relatively speaking, Lin Jin looked more like his disciple now that he was following him. The eagle and the beast flew together. On the back of the bird, the two of them were chatting happily. Senior Mo lay on the side and listened obediently, not even daring to breathe loudly. At least that was what Senior Mo was thinking. Previously, it was only allowed to follow Lin Jin under the guise of leading the way. But later on, it realized that it wasn't a good guide and Lin Jin might send it back at any time. This wasn't a good thing. For now, Senior Mo had to reduce its presence as much as possible. It would be best if Appraiser Lin temporarily forgot about its existence and its existence. Once they reached Sky Spiral Nation, what was done would be done. Appraiser Lin probably wouldn't send it back then, would he? Even if that was the case, Senior Mo could just say that he didn't know the way back. Anyway, it would stay here for as long as it could. Of course, Senior Mo knew very well that Appraiser Lin might have tacitly allowed it to follow him. If that was the case, all the more reason not to disturb Appraiser Lin's conversation with his old friend. With Gu Mingzhong leading the way, things were much easier for Lin Jin. In less than a day, they arrived at Spiral Nation's territory. There are 103 counties in Heavenly Spiral Nation. They have a vast territory and are much larger than our Jade Dragon Kingdom. Even if we enter Heavenly Spiral's territory, it'll take us at least a day to reach their capital. Moreover, we can't fly as we please in Heavenly Spiral's territory. As if responding to Gu Mingzhong's words, a few eagle beasts flew over from afar. They were so fast that they reached Lin Jin and Gu Mingzhong in the blink of an eye. Merak's territory. You're not allowed to fly over without an official's order. Hurry up and land. An armored soldier on an eagle beast shouted. But seeing Gu Mingzhong's manner, his tone was not particularly harsh. It was obvious that Gu Mingzhong had been here many times. At this moment, he laughed and cupped his hands, saying, "Don't worry, generals. The two of us will go down now. We won't cause you any trouble." Having said that, he turned to look at Lin Jin. Lin Jin nodded. Since they were in someone else's territory, they had to abide by their rules. The soldier's gaze swept across Lin Jin and Gu Mingzhong. Even Senior Mo was scrutinized by the soldiers for a moment. After seeing them land on the ground and walk, the soldier quickly left. That's Heavenly Spiral Nation's Sky Patrol. There are at least a few thousand of them, and every one of them is equipped with an eagle beast. They're quite a force to be reckoned with, Gu Mingzhong said. Lin Jin was startled, as expected of a premium country. Although there were eagles in the Jade Dragon Kingdom, only the nobles owned them. It was almost impossible for others to get their hands on one. But in Heavenly Spiral Nation, they could equip a sky patrol with thousands of eagle beasts. This was the difference between countries. As expected of a country, especially a country like Heavenly Spiral, Central Continent's #1 indeed lives up to its reputation. Lin Jin exclaimed. Since they couldn't ride on eagles, they could only travel by foot. Just then, Senior Mo mustered up his courage and said, "Appraiser Lin, Master Gu, if you don't mind, you can ride on my back. I may not be good at anything else, but I'm definitely fast when it comes to running. Horses and cheetahs are nothing in front of me." He was recommending himself. Lin Jin nodded. Senior Mo was overjoyed. This was great news for him. It meant that Appraiser Lin was willing to carry him around. With this, cultivation, transfiguration, and the secrets of prolonging his life wouldn't be a problem anymore. Senior Mo immediately grew to the size of 2 people before stopping. This wasn't even his true form. If it was his true form, forget 2 people, he could even fit more than 10 people. Senior Mo wasn't bragging. He was indeed fast. With Gu Mingzhong around, he didn't have to worry about the route. Sometimes, he would converse with Gu Mingzhong to understand the situation in Heavenly Spiral Nation. Sometimes, he would close his eyes to rest, and, at other times, he would recite some cultivation theories. Of course, these were all for Senior Mo. After all, having lived for 200 years, Senior Mo was quite intelligent. From the moment Lin Jin started reciting, Senior Mo memorized everything carefully. If he encountered something he didn't understand, he would wait for Lin Jin to finish reciting before asking cautiously. Lin Jin would answer him. Senior Mo was overjoyed to hear that. Finally, he had taken a solid step forward. To Lin Jin, this didn't seem like a big deal. Senior Mo could use it in the future. Moreover, he had tested Senior Mo's loyalty, so it was only natural for him to teach Senior Mo some superficial skills. Gu Mingzhong, on the other hand, was shocked from beginning to end. Then, he found an opportunity to ask Lin Jin, "Brother Lin, are you talking about monster cultivation?" Lin Jin didn't deny it. Transfiguration. Guessing correctly, Gu Mingzhong lowered his voice and said, "Brother Lin, I've gained some knowledge from my travels. You should know that cultivation, especially monster cultivation, isn't something that doesn't exist in the outside world, but they're all secrets that aren't passed down to outsiders. You have to be careful about this. If someone with ulterior motives hears about this, you might get into trouble. It's the same for monsters who don't know how to cultivate. These monsters don't have any rules. After all, they're still beasts." It was a kind reminder, so Lin Jin naturally thanked him. Gu Mingzhong was right. Many demonic beasts did not understand etiquette. Some of them lived in the wilderness and believed in the law of the jungle, unlike humans who lived in cities. Even if they were poor and could not afford to go to a private school, could not afford to hire a teacher, and did not know how to read, they still knew the etiquette of the clan and the rules of conduct. Hence, most monsters were barbaric and savage. There was no doubt about that. However, Lin Jin had always been careful not to kill a group of people with a single strike. There were scum among humans, but of course, monsters had benevolent hearts. This was an objective reality. Occasionally, they would chat, and occasionally, they would preach. In less than 2 days, they arrived at Merak's royal city. From afar, Lin Jin could see a huge city built against a mountain. It was a majestic sight with towering walls and tall buildings. Through aura observation, Lin Jin could tell that this place was the most populated and beastly aura Lin Jin had ever seen in his life. Chapter 455. Over there is Heavenly Jade City, the capital of Heavenly Spiral Nation. This city is at least 5 times larger than our Jade Dragon City, Gu Mingzhong said. Lin Jin smiled, musing. It's more than 5 times larger. This place is at least 10 times larger. Lin Jin's horizons had been broadened during this trip. At this distance, wouldn't be appropriate for Senior Mo to carry them on his back anymore. Since they were new here and guests were in a foreign land, they had to keep a low profile. Gu Mingzhong agreed. After all, Heavenly Spiral Nation's capital was home to all sorts of people. There are dozens of countries in Central Continent, and 3 of them are premium countries. There are dozens of countries in the Central Continent, and 3 of them are premium countries. Among them, Heavenly Jade is the most prominent, and naturally, Heavenly Jade is the largest beast appraiser association in the Central Continent. The association also runs Heavenly Jade Academy, which is the holy land for beast appraisers in the Central Continent. Countless people have come to the academy because of its reputation, but have no way to study. Heavenly Jade Academy also requires an assessment to recruit students, and the worst candidate must be an official beast appraiser. Gu Mingzhong was quite knowledgeable. He knew that Lin Jin was here to visit the Beast Appraisal Association headquarters in Heavenly Spiral City, so he told Lin Jin everything he knew. Lin Jin smiled. "You know Appraiser Tan's son, Master Gu. Appraiser Tan's daughter is currently studying at Heavenly Spiral Academy. I even brought a letter from the Tan family." Chatting and laughing, the two entered the city. Heavenly Spiral City's gates alone exuded a majestic aura. The gates were tall, and the roads were wide. Countless people entered and exited the city. Even the soldiers guarding the gates were clad in bright armor. Beside them were tall and mighty pet beasts, all rank 3 cloud lions. On top of the city walls, Lin Jin saw rank 4 pet beasts guarding the place. Impressive. Rank 4 beasts in intermediate countries were considered national protectors. In comparison, rank 4 beasts in Heavenly Spiral City were much more common. Senior MO had shrunk to its smallest size as it followed behind Lin Jin. However, its mind was occupied with the cultivation techniques Lin Jin taught it along the way. Admittedly, Senior MO was quite willing to study them. As soon as the two humans and one beast entered the city, a customer sitting at a stall in a tea house noticed Senior MO a dragon. The customer was taken aback. It was obvious that he had some knowledge about beast appraising. There were thousands of beasts in this world, but the ones that were at the top were actually very easy to count. Dragon beasts were one of them. The dragon head has no horns. The dragon scales are as black as ink. The color is like iron for legs and 4 claws. The head is big and the body is short. The man mumbled to himself, "This is a ground fighting dragon. The ground is made of earth, and the earth is made of stone, sand, mud, and jade. Its scales are as hard as jade. If I'm not mistaken, it should be a type of jade dragon." This person immediately turned to Lin Jin and Gu Mengzhou. These two people looked travel-worn. One look, and you can tell that they have come from a faraway place. It seems like they have just arrived here. This is a good fat sheep. The man rolled his eyes and immediately took out a sparrow from his sleeve. He muttered a few words to the sparrow and threw it away. The sparrow spread its wings and flew away. After letting the sparrow go, the man drank all the tea in his cup. Then, he picked up a pair of walnuts on the table and stood up to follow. After following him for a while, his companions arrived. "Is there a fat sheep?" a bald man among the newcomers asked. The man smiled and winked. "Those two. Shopkeeper Wei, you're an expert. What do you think of that jade dragon?" The bald man immediately followed the man's gaze and nodded. "Good stuff. Jade dragons are rare, even among dragon beasts. Only the Jade Dragon Kingdom can produce them, and they're all controlled by the royal family. Very few of them are left in the wild. However, the rarer they are, the better the price. Many people in Tianxian City like them. Jade dragons are born at rank 3, and I can't tell what rank this one is without getting close and using a beast appraisal talisman. I'm afraid it's not a good idea. These two fat sheep are foreigners. They've just entered the city, so it's a good time to strike. It's a rare opportunity," the first man urged. The bald man stared at the two and was in the middle of a plan when the young man in front of him suddenly turned to look at him. Feeling guilty, he was startled and immediately averted his gaze. "That sharp? No, it must be a coincidence. I'm about 10 feet away from him and there are so many people on the street, so he couldn't have noticed me. Maybe the middle-aged scholar next to him noticed me." The bald man mumbled to himself. At this thought, realization dawned on him, but he was still angry. "How dare you scare me?" He made up his mind. F***CK. Anyone with a jade dragon pet beast was no ordinary person. However, since the other party didn't keep it with the Beastmaster scroll, he probably didn't have much of a background. After all, anyone with a background would have cultivated the Beastmaster scroll before. Of course, they couldn't rule out the possibility that the other party didn't want to keep the jade dragon pet beast on purpose. But this would undoubtedly create an opportunity for people like them who specialized in stealing other people's pet beasts. No matter who the other party was, they didn't care even if he was a member of the Jade Dragon Kingdom's royal family. This was Tianxian country, and they were the local tyrants of Tianxian City. A powerful dragon couldn't suppress a local tyrant, so this was a rare opportunity. They had to seize it. At this, the bald man ordered his subordinates and the people who were watching them, "We'll take this deal. A few days ago, there was a buyer who wanted a rare dragon beast, and the price he offered wasn't low. If we close this deal, it'll be enough for us to survive for a year." When those people heard this, their eyes lit up, and they looked eager to give it a try. Same old rules. Be quick and keep your eyes open. Don't complicate matters. The bald man was a decisive man, so once he made up his mind, he immediately got to work. They were all veterans in this field, so at the manager's order, they got to work. Up ahead, Lin Jin looked away. "Brother Lin, what's wrong?" Gu Mengzhou asked. "Nothing." Lin Jin only felt that someone was staring at him, and he had this feeling ever since he entered the city. But since there were so many people in the city, it was normal for people to stare at him. After all, his attire was slightly different from that of the locals. We'll see Tianxian City's Beast Appraisal Association headquarters soon. That place sure is lavish, Gumingzhong said with a smile. The two of them continued forward, but soon, someone was coming their way. The person was about to collide into Lin Jin. Anyone else would have been hit, but Lin Jin was sensitive and agile, so he dodged the attack with a tilt of his body. That person was also taken aback, but he reacted quickly. The package in his hand immediately fell to the ground, and a cracking sound could be heard. It seemed as if some porcelain had been smashed into pieces. The man's expression immediately turned fierce as he shouted at Lin Jin. "You foreigner, can't you see where you're going? You broke my family's heirloom. Pay up." As he spoke, a few more people came out from the man's side and surrounded Lin Jin and Gumingzhong. Anyone with a discerning eye could tell that this was a scam. Lin Jin and Gumingzhong could tell too. Both of them frowned. How could Tianxian City be this chaotic? In comparison, while J-Dragon City was small, there had never been a case of extortion on the streets. Just as Lin Jin was about to argue, he abruptly turned around and grabbed someone's wrist. It was the person who had been hiding in the back, waiting for an opportunity to attack Senior Mo. This person was holding a talisman with many complicated runes on it. It emitted a black aura that converged to form the face of a strange beast. Chapter 456. That person did not expect that the other party would be able to discover his movements after being distracted. At this moment, when his wrist was grabbed, he was stunned. After a brief moment of shock, the man immediately put on a fierce expression. "Let go." As he spoke, he exerted all his strength to pull his wrist back. But to his horror, he realized that Lin Jin's grip was as strong as a steel clamp. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't pull his wrist back. His companions also came to their senses at this time and immediately started cursing and swearing. "F***CKU. Let go. Let go of me. Ah, it hurts. Lin Jin exerted a little more strength, and the man couldn't stand it anymore and started screaming. Noticing that something was wrong, the scammers were ready to attack. Gumingzhong could tell that these two groups were in cahoots. With a smirk, he raised his leg and kicked one of them down. "Let's see which one of you dares to come over." The men had pet beasts with them too, and all of them started growling. Gumingzhong patted his gourd, and the ink monster materialized a sword. It was obvious that a fight was about to break out. The crowd immediately dispersed to give them space. Lin Jin extended his other hand and took the amulet from the man's hand before letting go. Although he had let go, Lin Jin had left a needle in the man's arm. Hence, the man's entire arm was limp, and he couldn't move it. "Punk, you're asking for it." Even though he couldn't move his arm, the man was anxious and angry. He continued to speak rudely. By now, Lin Jin had figured out the function of the amulet. Amazing. To think something like this exists in this world. After learning about the amulet's function from the museum, Lin Jin was amazed. The amulet was written in beast blood, and some beast soul was left on it. The incantation used was something Lin Jin had never seen before, but with the museum's interpretation, he could understand the meaning of the incantation. The blood-severing amulet can temporarily conceal or even sever a blood contract connection. This thing was simply the best magic weapon for stealing other people's pet beasts. In addition, this amulet could temporarily replace another person's blood contract. For example, it could temporarily make a pet beast think that the other person was its blood contract master. While Lin Jin was still in shock, someone suddenly appeared from the other side. Using a talisman throwing technique, the talisman was instantly pasted on the elderly dragon before it could even react. Then, the person grabbed the old dragon and carried it away, hugging it in his arms. Lin Jin was shocked to see that the old dragon was in such a state. His movements were so fast that it was hard for the eyes to follow. Lin Jin couldn't even react in time. Never underestimate anyone, especially in a place like Merak City where there were many experts. In terms of agility and speed, Lin Jin reckoned he would have a hard time defending himself if not for the old dragon's attack. The one who carried the elder Mo J dragon away was a man dressed like a rich young master. His demeanor was conceited and arrogant, and his appearance was somewhat androgynous. He was definitely a man, but he had the appearance of a girl. There was a jade pendant hanging from his waist, and his hair was tied up in a bun with a piece of gold. His attire exuded an air of femininity and nobility. Among the crowd, the bald shopkeeper immediately bowed respectfully when he saw the man. "Boss, why are you here?" Not only was the bald shopkeeper respectful, but he was also clearly afraid. It was as if the feminine young master was a terrifying demon. "Why am I here?" The young master smiled charmingly before slapping the bald shopkeeper across the face. "If I didn't come, you would have screwed up your mission. Fortunately, you're not completely useless. For the sake of this rank 4 Jade Dragon, I'll let you off the hook this time." The bald shopkeeper was grateful. "I'm leaving. You guys can take care of the rest." Having said that, the young master turned to leave. "Hold it right there." Lin Jean found it funny that these people didn't take him seriously at all. These people clearly had something to rely on and didn't care about the consequences. Other than being arrogant, they also dared to do this because they were confident that an outsider like Lin Jean wouldn't be able to do anything. The young master stopped, but didn't turn around. Instead, he revealed a beautiful side profile and said, "Outsider, you want to say that this is your pet beast. You want to accuse us of stealing it on the streets. You even want to report it to the authorities. You want to fight. But in reality, this isn't your pet beast because there's no blood contract between you two. I'm in the right no matter what you say. So if you're smart, I'd advise you to save your breath." The meaning behind the young master's words was very clear. He had stuck a special amulet on Old Mo's body that could temporarily cut off a pet beast's blood contract. Hence, under normal circumstances, the owner of the blood contract would no longer be able to control the pet beast. They might not even be able to release the power of the blood contract. It was like someone who had stolen your purse and was caught red-handed asking shamelessly, "Did you write your name on the purse when you said it was yours?" Would it answer if you called for it? It was the same trick. It was a blatant scam. Lin Jean wasn't angry. Not only was he not angry, he even nodded and said, "Old Mo, and I don't have a blood contract. Of course, it's not my pet beast." Old Mo. The young master realized that Lin Jean was referring to an ink jade dragon. However, this was his first time seeing the other party admit defeat so easily. However, just as the young master thought of this, Old Mo finally couldn't hold it in any longer. Earlier, it had been pondering a crucial point in its cultivation, so it had forgotten about everything else. But just as it was about to figure it out, something was suddenly pasted on its body, and it was picked up. Its train of thought was interrupted by this incident. When Old Mo snapped out of its daze, it realized that it had been carried away, and that person had spouted a bunch of nonsense. "You dog, why are you carrying me?" Old Mo cursed. He wasn't angry because the other party had carried him, but because the other party had interrupted his train of thought. But this voice gave the noble young master a fright. As if he had seen a ghost, he tossed Old Mo away with a horrified look on his face. Those who speak human language are called monsters. You're a monster. He didn't know that this young master was so knowledgeable. No one could form a blood contract with a monster. At this moment, the young master came to his senses. That person wasn't admitting defeat, but was telling the truth. This ink jade dragon was indeed not the other party's pet beast. In this case, the blood-severing talisman would be useless. He couldn't borrow the talisman's power to suppress the pet beast with the power of a blood contract. I miscalculated. A thought popped up in the young master's mind. However, he was a well-known figure in Tianxian Royal City and had seen all kinds of situations. At this moment, he no longer had the thought of taking Old Mo away. A jade dragon pet beast was a good thing, but a jade dragon monster wasn't. If a monster couldn't form a blood contract, it had no value in itself. Besides, the fact that the person opposite them could make a monster obediently follow him proved his strength. This young master was a businessman who cared about profits. If there were no profits to be had, he wouldn't be interested in doing it. In his eyes, these people in front of him no longer had any value. Without value, there was no profit to be had. With a cold snort, he turned around and left. Trying to leave? Not so easy. Just then, Gu Mengzhong raised a finger and the ink sword in his hand flew out. The despicable act of snatching someone's pet beast and leaving without a second thought had clearly infuriated Gu Mengzhong. I can come and go as I please. Who can stop me? The young master sneered. With a swing of his bare hand, he deflected the ink beast sword with an ingenious angle. His movements were confident and at ease. Then he strode away. His silhouette flickered, and in a few moments he disappeared into the crowd. Once he left, the other scammers and the bald shopkeeper dispersed. Gu Mengzhong wanted to give chase, but Lin Jin stopped him with a hand. Master Gu, didn't you say that a powerful dragon can't suppress a snake in its own land? Stop chasing after him. Chapter 457. Lin Jin was trying to dissuade Gu Mengzhong. The latter was stunned. Brother Lin, these people are obviously trying to get away after failing their scheme. How can we let them go so easily? Gu Mengzhong was used to helping others whenever he saw injustice. Moreover, it was him and Lin Jin who were in trouble. If they didn't stop this sinister act of stealing someone else's pet beast, would there still be any justice in this world? Lin Jin shook his head at Gu Mengzhong. Lin Jin shook his head at Gu Mengzhong and said, "This isn't the wilderness." Moreover, that person was extremely agile, forcing Master Gu's ink beast sword back with his bare hands. He's no ordinary person either. If we were to really fight them, we might not be able to do anything to them. Also, since they dared to do something like this in broad daylight, they must be fearless. Don't get yourself into trouble later. Gu Mengzhong gave it some thought before nodding. Admittedly, Lin Jin's considerations made sense. Although Gu Mengzhong was slightly older, his experience in the martial world paled in comparison to Lin Jin's. To put it bluntly, Gu Mengzhong was a scholar with a sense of romance and chivalry. Lin Jin, on the other hand, had climbed up from the lowest rungs of society. Having experienced so many complicated things in such a short time, Lin Jin was more pragmatic. When it came to fighting, be it tactics or strategy, Lin Jin was far superior to Gu Mengzhong. Gu Mengzhong could only swallow his anger. However, little did he know that Lin Jin wasn't done with this matter. If it was just a local bully who took advantage of his authority to harm outsiders, Lin Jin wouldn't have bothered to take it to heart. But if this local bully was connected to the Demonic Appraisal Association, the situation would be entirely different. Due to the incident with the Qiao family of Reed City, Lin Jin and the Demonic Appraisal Association had become enemies. Moreover, the association had used Daluo Temple's eminent monk to deal with Shang'er and White Ape, almost causing their deaths. Lin Jin couldn't possibly let go of this grudge. The blood-severing talisman that the local bullies used earlier seemed to belong to the Demonic Appraisal Association. Or rather, to Lin Jin, this was something only the Demonic Appraisal Association could refine. In that instant, Lin Jin made his decision, casting a long line to catch a big fish. Last time, he was in the open while the enemy was in the dark. Now, it was the other way around. That androgynous young master was indeed an expert. Lin Jin was sure that if he didn't borrow his pet beast's strength, it would be hard to predict who would win. Hence, Lin Jin flicked out a needle imbued with his psyche and injected it into the bald man. This man was no small fry. He had a certain status, but he wasn't all that powerful. Hence, he was the perfect target for tracking. This was Lin Jin's plan. The bald man had become Lin Jin's bait. When the time was right, Lin Jin would deal with this troublemaker and, at the same time, investigate their relationship with the Demonic Appraisal Association. Now is not the right time. Gu Mengzhong was a little dejected. Perhaps it was because he had yet to vent his anger. Lin Jin consoled him, and Gu Mengzhong slowly felt better. Brother Lin, you are right. Sometimes, things in this world are too complicated. In the pugilistic world, one has no choice but to do what he wants. I know this very well. Gu Mengzhong couldn't help but sigh. After some thought, Lin Jin said something that left Gu Mengzhong flabbergasted. If you have absolute martial power, you can turn complicated into simple. After some thought, Gu Mengzhong understood what Lin Jin meant. Brother Lin, I'm not as good as you. Celestial Jade City was huge. Other than the little trouble they encountered when they first entered the city, everything went smoothly. Celestial Jade City was clearly divided into different regions, and some of them were unsafe, just like the train station in his original world. Generally speaking, Celestial Jade City was fine. Even if there were people causing trouble, it was only in certain areas. Lin Jin didn't know his way around while this was Gu Mengzhong's third time in Celestial Jade City. Coincidentally, he knew the location of the Beast Appraisal Association's headquarters. When Gu Mengzhong brought Lin Jin here, the latter felt as if his horizons had been broadened. The headquarters of the Beast Appraisal Association was basically a separate district within the city. In front of us is the Beast Appraisal Association's headquarters. That place doesn't look fancy at all. It looks ordinary and has an antique feel to it, but it's the holy land of beast appraisers in Zhongzhou. There are countless rank 1 and 2 beast appraisers here, hundreds of rank 3 beast appraisers, and dozens of rank 4 beast appraisers. Rumor has it that there are even rank 5 beast appraisers in Tianxian City's Beast Appraisal Association headquarters. Gu Mingzhong revealed everything he knew. Lin Jin had heard about this before he came here. Appraiser Tan Sun and the others had also reminded him more than once to keep a low profile. After all, this wasn't Jade Dragon City. That was a land of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. At the end of the road, there's a forest of trees. That's the famous Celestial Jade Academy in Continent Central. I heard that many of the top beast appraisers in the Beast Appraisal Association teach in Celestial Jade Academy. Gu Mingzhong racked his brains and told Lin Jin everything he knew. As they got closer, they realized that Celestial Jade City's Beast Appraisal Association's clinic was located on the other side. Admittedly, it was great to have a bigger place. Each area could be separated, and there was enough space to accommodate them. Chapter 458. Lin Jin wasn't a picky person. Moreover, it was normal for Heavenly Spiral Nation's headquarters to be busy, so waiting a little longer wasn't a big deal. Jiang Tianhe, a rank 3 beast appraiser from Heavenly Spiral Nation. He and appraiser Tan used to be classmates. The middle-aged appraiser introduced himself with a smile. Lin Jin quickly saluted him. I've received Brother Tan's letter and read it as well. In a letter, Brother Tan spoke highly of you, appraiser Lin. Now that I've seen you today, you're indeed a young hero. After Jiang Tianhe entered, he poured himself a cup of tea and drank it in one gulp. Lin Jin could tell that he was so busy that he didn't even have time to drink. However, it was this forthright attitude of his that left a favorable impression on Lin Jin. Appraiser Lin, please have a seat. Long story short, Brother Tan and I have been good friends for many years. He recommended Appraiser Lin to participate in the Rank 4 evaluation on behalf of Jade Dragon Kingdom's headquarters, so I'll do my best to help you. However, this Rank 4 evaluation is no trivial matter and isn't that simple. I'm afraid I won't have time today, so I'll have to trouble Appraiser Lin to come over tomorrow morning. I'll introduce you to the Rank 4 Beast Appraisers in charge of the evaluation, and they'll have the final say on the evaluation. Jiang Tianhe didn't try to hide his intentions. Lin Jin could tell that the man was sincerely helping him, so he quickly thanked him. What? Appraiser Jiang, this is my first time here. Is there anything I should prepare in advance? Lin Jin asked. Jiang Tianhe pondered for a moment. There's nothing much to prepare. Based on what I know, the evaluation of a Rank 4 Beast Appraiser is very strict. There are a total of 10 main appraisers, and in order to pass, all 10 must agree. If even one of them disagrees, it'll be troublesome. But that's understandable. After all, this is a Rank 4 promotion, so it can't be sloppy. Lin Jin nodded. Jiang Tianhe was right. A Rank 4 Beast Appraiser was no small matter. It was said that Heavenly Spiral Nation's headquarters only had about 20 Rank 4 Beast Appraisers. Right? Do you have a place to stay, Appraiser Lin? If not, I can arrange one for you. Jiang Tianhe was very enthusiastic. Lin Jin remembered that he wasn't alone. Gu Mengzhong was here too, so he said, I have a good friend in Heavenly Spiral City. We can find a place to stay. Jiang Tianhe nodded. Sound good. Having said that, he stood up. Appraiser Lin, if there's nothing else, I'll be taking my leave. I was forced by the situation, so I hope Appraiser Lin won't blame me for being rude. Lin Jin quickly shook his head. Appraiser Jiang, you're exaggerating. Suddenly, he remembered something and quickly said, right, there's one more thing. Appraiser Tan Sun's daughter is in Heavenly Jade Academy, and he asked me to bring a letter to her. How should I pass it to her? Jiang Tiana smiled and said, just go and find her directly. It's easy to talk to the academy. After saying that, he took his leave. It could be seen that he was really busy. Now that the assessment was settled, Lin Jin felt at ease. Since he still had time, he might as well make a trip to Heavenly Jade Academy. Once outside, Lin Jin asked an appraiser for directions and found out that there was a special path that led directly to Heavenly Spiral Academy. There was no need to walk from the outside. Lin Jin figured that if there was a shortcut, he would take it. Hence, he asked around as he walked. After passing through a vast garden, he walked past several pavilions, and finally, he arrived at Heavenly Jade Academy. Here, he could see many Rank 1 and 2 Beast Appraiser students studying. The academic atmosphere was instantly palpable. As Lin Jin walked over, the students who passed by were stunned when they saw the 3-ringed beast emblem on Lin Jin's sleeve. Then, they bowed respectfully. This was because Heavenly Jade Academy only had Rank 1 and 2 students. Those who had reached Rank 3 were all mentors. It was a rule for students to bow to their mentors. Whenever someone bowed to him, Lin Jin would respond politely. However, he soon realized a problem. Heavenly Jade Academy was too big. There were so many corridors, courtyards, and halls that it was too much for the eyes to take in. Many of the places looked similar, so he actually got lost. However, Lin Jin wasn't in a hurry. Just then, a few more students approached him. Lin Jin stopped them and asked for Tan Lin's whereabouts. Speaking of which, Lin Jin's understanding of Heavenly Jade Academy was very limited. He didn't know how this place was divided, so he could only ask for her name. However, it was obvious that not everyone knew who Tan Lin was. After a few rounds of questioning, Lin Jin still couldn't find her. Finally, he stopped a female student, and after asking, the girl was stunned. She said charmingly, "Sir, are you looking for Tan Lin? She's at the Beast Appraisal Pavilion." She obviously knew Tan Lin. Delighted, Lin Jin quickly thanked her. Then, do you know where the Beast Appraisal Pavilion is? Remembering that he didn't know where it was, Lin Jin asked sheepishly. The female student sized Lin Jin up before asking, "Aren't you a teacher from the academy?" If he was a teacher from the academy, there was no way he wouldn't know where the Beast Appraisal Pavilion was. Lin Jin nodded. "I'm a good friend of Tan Lin's from the same hometown. I was asked by someone to deliver a letter to her home." The female student mumbled to herself, "A good friend from the same hometown and a Rank 3 Beast Appraiser. So young. Oh, I know. You're Appraiser Lin, aren't you?" At this, the female student's eyes lit up. Lin Jin was genuinely surprised. After asking further, he found out that the female student's name was Li Xinqi, and she was a good friend of Tan Lin's. When they chatted, Tan Lin would mention Lin Jin. Tan Lin admires Appraiser Lin very much. "I used to not believe that such a young Rank 3 Beast Appraiser existed. Now that I've met you, I know that Tan Lin wasn't lying." Li Xinqi sneaked a glance at Lin Jin, musing that Appraiser Lin was probably around her age. If she knew that Lin Jin was the same age as her, she would be even more shocked. "Appraiser Lin, if you don't know where the Beast Appraisal Pavilion is, I'll take you there." Li Xinqi was clearly more enthusiastic than before, so Lin Jin quickly thanked her. Lin Jin noticed that Li Xinqi was a Rank 2 Beast Appraiser, just like Tan Lin. Lin Jin couldn't help but be secretly surprised, because along the way, although there were some students in the entire Heavenly Jade Academy, but most of them were young, just like his own age. What did this mean? Most of the Rank 2 Beast Appraisers in Jade Dragon Kingdom were in their 30s or 50s. Based on age alone, Heavenly Spiral Academy had gathered all the geniuses in Continent Center. How could it not be prosperous? Along the way, Lin Jin asked around, and sure enough, Li Xinqi wasn't from Heavenly Spiral. Instead, she was from another intermediate country in Continent Center, Jintang Kingdom. Moreover, Li Xinqi wasn't just any commoner. She was a member of Jintang's royal family. Clearly, those who could come to Heavenly Spiral Academy were either wealthy or respectable people. I heard from Tan Lin that Appraiser Lin can evaluate hundreds of beasts in a day. Is that true? Tan Lin said that Appraiser Lin's skills are outstanding. Right? She even let me see your evaluation reports. They are indeed impressive. Also, Li Xinqi kept talking along the way. Finally arriving at the Beast Appraisal Pavilion, Lin Jin thought that he could finally have some peace and quiet. He had assumed that this girl was a quiet person, but he didn't expect her to be so talkative. Chapter 459. From afar, Lin Jin could see that a crowd had gathered around the Beast Evaluation Pavilion. Stunned, Li Xinqi hurried over. Lin Jin studied the Beast Evaluation Pavilion and mused, "Indeed, Heavenly Spiral Academy is extraordinary." The building itself was built with a lot of knowledge, and the materials used were exquisite. Judging by the looks of the Beast Evaluation Pavilion, it must have been around for hundreds of years. Other than that, Lin Jin noticed that there were many carvings of beasts that looked like wooden carvings on the roof of the pavilion. They seemed like mere decorations, but Lin Jin could clearly sense the presence of spells and beast souls on them. If he was right, if someone had the corresponding spell, they only needed to issue a command, and those wooden carvings would come alive. As for what they could do after coming to life, there was no need to ask. They would only be activated when the academy was under attack. Lin Jin had seen many similar things along the way. Some of the stone beast carvings had similar spells and spells. It was for this reason that Lin Jin held Heavenly Spiral Academy in high regard. Just then, Li Xinqi hurried over and said, "Appraiser Lin, Tan Lin has gotten into a conflict with someone. You should go and take a look." Got into a conflict? Lin Jin was stunned. Although he didn't know what was going on, he hurried over. There were many people outside the Beast Evaluation Pavilion, and there were 3 layers of people surrounding it. Under normal circumstances, it would be difficult to squeeze through. But Lin Jin was different. At the sight of his 3-ringed sleeve, the others assumed he was a teacher from the academy and quickly moved aside. Lin Jin brought Li Xinqi closer to him. Inside the Beast Evaluation Pavilion's main hall, Lin Jin immediately spotted Tan Lin. She was currently sitting up straight in front of a desk, writing. On the other side was another desk where a woman was also writing. Inside the hall, a colorful feather wrapped in a ball of light hovered in the air. At this, Lin Jin breathed a sigh of relief. What kind of conflict was this? He thought Tan Lin had gotten into a fight. However, after Li Xinqi explained the situation, Lin Jin realized that this was indeed the same as a conflict. Based on what they said, this was a beast appraisal competition. The cause seemed to be an argument between Tan Lin and that woman, and they decided to compete based on their appraisal skills and knowledge. It was said that Heavenly Jade Academy's Beast Appraisal Pavilion contained specimens of rare and exotic beasts from all over the world. Of course, some of them might just be a scale, a piece of skin, or a few feathers. In order to motivate the students, the Heavenly Jade Academy allowed the students to view the various specimens collected here. Then, based on the specimens and their knowledge, they would write evaluation reports. The Ferocious Beast Suppression Technique, Ferocious Beast Energy Refinement Technique, and Demonic King Technique were all rewards obtained from the museum. Hence, this matter was very important to Lin Jin. Hence, after hearing Li Xinqi's explanation, Lin Jin's mind was racing as he tried to figure out the feasibility of his plan. The most direct way was to record the specimens, but Heavenly Jade Academy would never agree to it. That would be using force. Lin Jin wasn't averse to violence, but if violence couldn't solve a problem, it would be the stupidest thing to do. After all, he wasn't invincible. In that case, he would have to pay attention to methods. Who could come into contact with the various specimens in the Beast Appraisal Pavilion in a reasonable, legal, and safe manner? Lin Jin suddenly asked Li Xinqi, You mentioned that there are teachers in the Beast Appraisal Pavilion. What do they do? Well, I'm not too sure myself. They should be the academy teachers in charge of sorting out the specimens in the Beast Appraisal Pavilion and writing the evaluation results, Li Xinqi answered. Her answer was more or less what Lin Jin had guessed. Tan Lin obviously didn't notice Lin Jin's arrival. All her attention was on how to write the evaluation report. She and Jiang Fengfeng were like fire and water. She had been at odds with Jiang Fengfeng since the first day she came to Heavenly Jade Academy. Whenever the latter wanted to surpass her, Tan Lin wouldn't let her. Today, she was going to use a single feather to appraise the creature's origin. For Tan Lin, she could only win this competition. However, to appraise the origin of a single feather and what kind of beast it belonged to, it would be even better if she could write down some information about the beast. But this was still rather difficult for Tan Lin. It was true that she was a rank 2 beast appraiser, but she wasn't that knowledgeable. However, Tan Lin figured that Jiang Fengfeng should be the same. Moreover, Tan Lin was confident that she was better than Jiang Fengfeng when it came to beast appraising. However, Tan Lin didn't notice that Jiang Fengfeng was secretly looking up, occasionally glancing at the crowd outside. Among the crowd, a rather handsome man in white was secretly gesturing to her. No one noticed this except for Lin Jin. Chapter 460. Lin Jin happened to notice it as well, mainly because he sensed a strong beast aura from this man. Clearly, the man had cultivated the Beastmaster scroll to a decent level. Other than that, Lin Jin noticed a 3-ringed beast pattern on the man's sleeves. Cheating? That was Lin Jin's first reaction. After a closer look, he was more or less certain of it. This rank 3 beast appraiser's knowledge clearly surpassed that of an average rank 2 beast appraiser. Since he was using a secret code to communicate with Jiang Fengfeng, it went without saying that he was cheating. This secret code used different combinations of fingers, palms, wrists, and even elbows to transmit different messages. If an experienced person used a secret code, it would be no different from a normal conversation. Jiang Fengfeng had obviously used this method to cheat. Now that she had obtained enough information, she looked pleased. She glanced at Tan Lin, who was racking her brains, smirked, and began writing. Lin Jin shook his head. If that was the case, Tan Lin couldn't possibly win. No matter how good she was, she couldn't compare to the two of them working together. It was just a beast appraisal competition, but the other party had resorted to a dirty trick like cheating. How shameful was that? Tan Lin was so focused that she didn't notice it at all. After some thought, Lin Jin decided to help her. Although he couldn't touch the feather that was hovering in the air, with his current knowledge, he could tell quite a lot just by looking at it. At least, he was much better than the rank 3 beast appraiser who helped Jiang Fengfeng cheat. After all, Lin Jin had the Museum of Deadly Beasts behind him. His long years of practice had allowed him to reach a high standard in beast appraising. Lin Jin had a rough idea of the feather's origin. Most people would assume that feathers belonged to birds, but that wasn't the case. It all depended on the feather's specific condition. Take this feather, for example. The feather was thick, long, and tough. Although the tassel was colorful, the arrangement of colors was very particular. After all, the colors on a beast's body weren't random. Taking a closer look, the feather was hollow, more like some kind of tough and pliable bone. It was very different from the feathers of ordinary birds. Although he couldn't touch it from afar and couldn't tell its weight, Lin Jin deduced that it was quite heavy. Based on that, there was a high chance that it wasn't a bird's feather. Coincidentally, there were similar beasts with similar feathers in Lin Jin's museum. After a quick comparison, Lin Jin came to a conclusion. Although his conclusion might not be accurate, it was the closest one. At the very least, Lin Jin was confident that it would be more accurate than the white-robed rank 3 beast appraisers. The next step was how to pass it to Tan Lin. If the other party cheated, Tan Lin could do the same. Lin Jin was reminded of a spell known as telepathy in ancient times. Lin Jin had only stayed at Daluo Temple for 3 days when he heard about it from the abbot. Daluo Temple had a 1,000-year heritage, and they had preserved many cultivation, martial arts, spells, and supernatural powers. Telepathy was one of them. Back then, Master Abbot had explained the theory, and Lin Jin had occasionally studied it himself. To put it bluntly, this was a type of spell that didn't require much practice. As long as one had enough mana, they could perform it. Coincidentally, Lin Jin had enough mana. Taking a deep breath, he looked at Tan Lin and opened his mouth slightly. However, even Li Xinqi, who was closest to him, couldn't hear what Lin Jin was saying. However, it was different for Tan Lin. She was almost done and was ready to hand it in, but at this moment, a voice suddenly rang in her ear. Tan Lin, don't move when you hear me. I'm Lin Jin. Tan Lin was indeed startled. However, she had a strong state of mind after all. Despite her shock, she managed to suppress her emotions so that she wouldn't scream or do anything unnecessary. She immediately looked up, and soon, she spotted Lin Jin among the crowd outside. Tan Lin was clearly overjoyed, but also in disbelief. She probably didn't expect to meet him here. Lin Jin nodded in acknowledgement before transmitting his voice to Tan Lin, informing her of the current situation. When she heard that Jiang Fengfeng was cheating, Tan Lin was furious. She actually did this just to win against me. Tan Lin's first reaction was to report Jiang Fengfeng. However, Lin Jin's voice suddenly came. Don't even think about reporting her. They're using code. If you can't find any evidence, they might even come back to bite you. Lin Jin's words calmed Tan Lin down. That was right. Since Jiang Fengfeng dared to cheat in this place, she must have thought of a countermeasure. Moreover, it was indeed difficult to catch her using code words. Besides, Jiang Fengfeng was not an ordinary person. She was a local of Tianxian Nation, and her family was in Tianxian City. She was very influential. Among the crowd, there must be quite a number of people on her side. If Tan Lin were to report Jiang Fengfeng carelessly, she would most likely come back to bite her. Tan Lin felt despair. She was confident that she would have the upper hand if she were to compete with Jiang Fengfeng. But if Jiang Fengfeng were to cheat, things would be different. Just then, Lin Jin's voice made Tan Lin's heart skip a beat. If she can cheat, so can you. That's right, Tan Lin mused. Since this competition was already unfair, there was no need to abide by the so-called rules. Just like Lin Jin said, if Jiang Fengfeng could cheat, why couldn't she? But here came a problem. She wasn't prepared, so she couldn't cheat even if she wanted to. Just as Tan Lin was fretting, Lin Jin's voice came again. 5-colored feather. Look at the stem of the feather. The hollow is as tough as bone. The feather roots are as long as chopsticks, and the feather tassels are heavy. The 5 colors of the feathers of birds are red, yellow, blue, white, and black. According to the scripture of 10,000 beasts, the crowned feathers of the wood element swift dragon beasts of the southern border are 5-colored, and the arrangement varies according to the age of the beast. According to the current arrangement, this feather should belong to a wood element swift dragon beast of the southern continent that is above 70 years old. That's right, this is a male. When Lin Jin finished speaking, Tan Lin was stunned for a moment before coming to a realization. Lin Jin was helping her cheat. Although Tan Lin didn't like cheating, she had no choice but to do so given the circumstances. However, Lin Jin's appraisal result was very different from hers. She had already written down that this feather belonged to a special kind of bird. It was the feather of a large bird monster that lived in the central continent. It was incredibly difficult to determine the origin of a bird based on a single feather. After all, there were too many beasts with feathers. What she wrote down was the result of careful consideration. However, she chose to believe Lin Jin without hesitation, because she knew very well that Lin Jin was much better than her when it came to beast appraising. Tan Lin immediately revised the evaluation report anxiously and rewrote it. This was her first time cheating, so she was nervous. But in terms of cheating method, Lin Jin's method was much more secretive. Right, how did Lin Jin's voice reach her? Why couldn't anyone else hear him? He then continued to drag Jiang Fengfeng, who was unwilling to let go, away. Lin Jin noticed this young appraiser as well. The man was about the same age as him, a few years older than him at most. To be a rank 3 beast appraiser at such a young age, his future was limitless. As for the Mr. Zhong they mentioned earlier, Lin Jin gave it some thought, and a name came to mind. Zhong Zifeng. This man was a legendary figure in the beast appraiser world. At least 30% of the beast appraisal books were written by this man. Just this fact alone was enough to prove his status. Lin Jin also heard that this Zhong Zifeng was a national treasure in Heavenly Spiral Nation. He seemed to have reached level for a few decades ago. It was no wonder he was so intimidating. If Tan Lin went up there, wouldn't something go wrong? After giving it some thought, Lin Jin shook his head. Tan Lin was an intelligent woman. She knew what to say and what not to say. Moreover, her knowledge in beast appraising far surpassed her peers and peers of the same rank. After all, with an experienced beast appraiser like Tan Sun as her tutor, she didn't have to worry about her own qualities. Moreover, Lin Jin had told her about the origin of the feather and how to appraise it, so it shouldn't be a problem. After some thought, Lin Jin retreated outside with Li Xinqi and found a place to sit and wait. She was so happy. To be honest, she never thought that one day she would be able to study under Mr. Zhong's tutelage. That was a fortuitous encounter that many people yearned for. On the first floor, Teacher Wang hadn't left. He was waiting there. Naturally, he knew that Mr. Zhong had accepted Tan Lin. When he saw Tan Lin come down, he walked up to her. Tan Lin, congratulations. Teacher Wang was very enthusiastic. Hello, Mr. Wang. Upon seeing this, Tan Lin hurriedly saluted. In her heart, she was wondering if someone had seen her losing her composure just now. Just call me Wang Xian. As Mr. Zhong's student, you'll definitely be able to get rank 3 or even rank 4. There's no need to be so polite. Teacher Wang was extremely polite. Judging from his tone, he was treating Tan Lin as if she was his equal. This naturally made Tan Lin feel extremely flattered. Feel free to look for me if you need anything in the future. I'm always with Mr. Zhong, so we'll be family from now on. Wang Xian didn't say much. He was here to get closer to Tan Lin. In fact, what he said wasn't complete. He was just an assistant lecturer, and his rank wasn't high. Since he knew that Mr. Zhong liked Tan Lin, there was nothing wrong with building a good relationship with her. Tan Lin excused herself. When she got outside, she saw Lin Jin and Li Xinqi enjoying the breeze. Tan Lin, you have to treat us. Li Xinqi immediately jumped up to greet Tan Lin when she saw her. Stop fooling around, Tan Lin said. It was obvious that she shared a close relationship with Li Xinqi. She came over to Lin Jin and bowed formally. Appraiser Lin, thank you. Lin Jin nodded. Lin Jin knew why she was thanking him. From Tan Lin's expression, he could tell that she must have gotten lucky. This was something that depended on fate, but Lin Jin was happy that Tan Lin had such an opportunity. By handing over Tan Sun's letter, Lin Jin had completed appraiser Tan Sun's request. Tan Lin opened the letter and was overwhelmed with emotions. Her eyes were even moist. Lin Jin could understand this. If someone was away from home, they would be homesick, so it was normal for them to be excited after receiving a letter. It had been a while since Lin Jin and Tan Lin met, so they were more than familiar with each other. As they chatted, Tan Lin asked about Maple City, and Lin Jin assured her that everything was fine. Then, she asked about Lin Jin's intentions. After all, Lin Jin couldn't possibly be here just to deliver a letter to her. It's nothing much. I just want to get my Beast Appraiser's qualification promoted, but the Jade Dragon Kingdom doesn't have the capability, so Appraiser Tansen wrote me a letter of recommendation, asking me to come to Heavenly Jade City to get my qualification promoted to rank 4. Lin Jin was nonchalant about it, as if he was talking about something insignificant. But to Tan Lin and Li Xinqi, who were standing behind her, it was like a thunderclap. Promoted to rank 4,